We're going to talk about Hurricane Beryl. We'll talk about some global news, trigger warning. Some of the stuff might be a little uncomfortable for some of y'all out there. War and Peace is the name of the show. So we're going to talk about conflicts in the world. Click the link to join. Let's go. Don't take my word for it. Look that mess up, please.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? KCE, King Chaka.
An educated and united public cannot be controlled. Get organized. Learn to be active.
Looks like we got us another hit.
You tell her to get away from me. She's crazy.
Choose your destiny.
An educated and united public cannot be controlled. Get organized. Learn to be active. Investigate both sides of the argument. Come up with your own conclusions.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? KCE, King Chaka.
Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all feel? Remember, an educated public cannot be controlled. Learn to be active. The views and events expressed here are totally whacked and are not necessarily the views of anyone. ¿Cómo estás? Bien, bien, bien. ¿Podemos ayudarnos más? Sí se puede. And don't take my word for it. Look that mess up, please, for your own benefit. Yeah, and for my benefit, like, share, and subscribe. Maybe leave some comments. And watch on Rumble. You know, I'm monetized over there. So move on over to Rumble. Watch the show over there. Anyways, peace and love. How y'all feeling? Another Friday. I'm coming on as early as possible. I guess I could have came on earlier, but War and Peace. War and Peace. That's the name of the show today. So we will be covering some uncomfortable themes today. So trigger warning. And if you don't want to or can't deal with uncomfortable themes, exit stage left. Let's start off with Beryl, the hurricane, because I'm in Houston, Texas. So this storm is of particular interest to us here in Houston because it's looking like it's heading our way. Now, I think it's still a tropical storm at the moment. They're expecting it to intensify and become at least a category 1. And then it's going to hit the Gulf Coast and hook a right. So most likely Houston area folks won't get like hurricane force winds or whatever. We'll probably get some rain. And what they're projecting is that it's going to move quickly, which also is a good thing for us because hopefully it won't have time to dump a lot of rain. We had a tropical storm. Which one was it? I want to say it was Allison, and it hung around and just kept on dropping rain, and it caused a lot of problems. It wasn't even a hurricane. It caused a lot of problems. So when they hover around and keep dumping that water on us, that's a problem. We had some rain earlier today and it was some flooding in Houston. Like certain areas of Houston just can't handle more than like a couple inches of rain. So whenever it's like 5, 10, 12 inches of rain, that's a problem. I'm hoping I'm hoping this is a big dud. Let's hope it's a big dud. Let me see. How long ago was this one? Let's play some of this right quick.
I'm Katira Winfrey here with meteorologist Chris Ramirez. Michael Brennan with the National Hurricane Center is standing by. But first, Chris, let's get right to this forecast.
Yes, Katira, of course, Beryl is a tropical storm, so it's not looking too impressive right now on radar, but we're seeing signs of it strengthening already as we go into the next few hours. You're able to see the start of that rapid intensification, and it is expected to strengthen into a hurricane right prior to landfall. Right now, as of the 7 a.m. advisory, it has 60-mile-an-hour winds moving west-northwest at 12 miles an hour. As we look at the updated track of the storm, it's going to be making landfall somewhere along the Texas coast from Corpus Christi near Matagorda Bay on Monday afternoon with 90-mile-an-hour winds. And we are seeing parts of Houston under that cone of definitely expecting that to continue for the next 48 hours. So folks that are along the coastal areas from Brazosport all the way down to Port Mansfield and the Rio Grande Valley, they're under a hurricane watch. But one thing to note is that storm surge watch and that storm surge potential that is very well likely. So we could see up to 2 to 5 feet of water inundation possible along our coastal areas as we head into that landfall, which is going to take place at some point on Monday. So
yeah, so the people that are on the coastal areas, if you live there, whatever, I don't know, if you're planning to go to the beach or something like this is not the time. Like, those people are the ones that really need to take this the most serious because it's most likely to be the most damage and problems are going to be along the coast.
The coast, increasing wind, rain, and surf and seas. We are expecting that heavy rain and, of course, a tornado threat is now involved with the storms that are going to be moving through those outer bands as we head into those afternoon hours. So the timing, Sunday night through Tuesday evening. A very clear and sunny day right now across the Houston area in the upper 80s, 85 in Sugar Land. We are expecting some showers later on this afternoon. This is not related to Beryl, but this is related to sea breeze showers that are going to give us some downpours as we head closer towards 2 p.m. Back to you.
The National Hurricane Center Director Michael Brennan is joining us now to give us some insight into this storm. Michael, first, what's the latest the NHC is seeing in Beryl's track?
Well, the track has not changed a whole lot since last night. We're still expecting a west-northwestward motion during the day today, and then more of a northward turn that's going to bring the center of Beryl, very close to the coast of lower and middle Texas coast as we go through the day on Monday. So we're still expecting Beryl to re-intensify and reach hurricane strength by the time it gets to the coast, and we could see some pretty quick strengthening here as the environment gets really favorable. So we're looking at, again, multiple life-threatening hazards. The potential for life-threatening storm surge inundation, hurricane force winds, and very heavy rainfall along portions of the Texas Gulf Coast. That heavy rainfall threat is going to extend well inland as well.
And with all of that, what do you want the people of Southeast Texas to know today?
Well, today is really your day to prepare. Conditions are going to start to deteriorate during the day tomorrow, and especially tomorrow night and into Monday. So folks who are in this storm surge watch area, basically all the way up to High Island, you have the potential for life-threatening inundation. We could see 2 to 4 feet of inundation above ground level in places like the Bolivar Peninsula up into Galveston Bay. So if you live in an area that's prone to storm surge, you want to take precautions today. Get ready to protect your home, your property. If there are any evacuation orders, you should leave if you've been asked to by your local officials. And again, in terms of the timing, we're really looking at tropical storm force winds reaching, portions of the Texas coast Sunday evening. So you have today, Saturday, and most of the day tomorrow to continue to get ready for the storm and make any preparations you need to make.
All right, Michael.
Man, I saw this post. They were talking about these alligators they were moving from like a park closer to the coast, and they were moving it up north. It was a big, huge alligator. Shoot. I guess they figure if the flooding happens, then it's a chance that the alligators will get out of their, encampments. Man, imagine having these big, huge alligators swimming through your freaking neighborhood. What a nightmare. Alligator swimming down your freaking street. You're like, when they say it's flood water and they be like, anything could be in that water, it's like, that is the truth. Literally anything could be in that water. Like a big giant alligator.
This is a lot of focus on the state. All right, a good Saturday afternoon to you. I'm Fox 26 meteorologist John Dawson. Glad you could check in here with our tropical update. And yes, it's going to be all about Beryl. It's going to be a lot of focus on the state of Texas. I know normally we have so many visitors that are checking in with us from with our tropical updates every afternoon from all across the Atlantic Basin. I know the Caribbean viewers and followers were definitely plugged in as Beryl was moving across the Caribbean. But now it's in the Gulf of Mexico, and now we are talking a whole lot about Texas. And yes, just so we're clear, again, if you're visiting and not from the Houston area, this is where I am in Houston, and we're certainly all focused on Beryl and what it's going to do to the Texas coast. It's really kind of bullseyeing right now on the central portions of the coast, and those impacts can be greatly varied from just a 20 to 25 or even 50-mile difference on where that eye would make its landfall. And so we'll see that. Hopefully we're getting that a little bit more narrowed down at this point. But our visible satellite imagery starting to show a little bit of a recovery from Beryl's track over the Yucatan Peninsula. Beryl, it didn't, I don't want to say it completely fell apart, but it certainly got ugly and messy on the satellite imagery. Now, again, beginning to look a little bit better organized and still fighting some elements. We're going to talk about those in just a second. But at this point, we're looking at a tropical storm and with the maximum sustained winds still at 60 miles an hour. So this is holding steady with the previous update that we've had. And you'll notice it's still expected to maybe gain a little bit more strength in the overnight hours on Saturday night, early Sunday. But by this time tomorrow afternoon, we do expect to see Beryl sort of getting itself organized and strengthening back into hurricane strength. And right now it looks like landfall. We're expecting about 85 to 90 mile an hour winds. And that is going to be something that's we got to all take serious, of course. And at this point, it does look like Matagorda Bay, right towards Victoria, Palacios. Those are the areas that we're focusing on at this point. So as this track begins to settle in and focus a little bit more, remember we are still trying to remember that it could happen anywhere within our cone here. And so when we start looking at some winds and some rainfall and some storm surge, all of that could slide around a little with a slight variation of the track. For sure, that coastal flooding and storm surge is going to be a concern for those folks right near the coast. All of us are concerned about the heavy rain. In very general terms, 5 to 10 inches is what we're expecting.
5 to 10 inches doesn't sound that bad, but it's always better to take these storms serious and it turn out to be a dud than you don't, and you end up in a really bad situation. Houston, we've been dodging. We haven't gotten a major hurricane in a good amount of time. We haven't got a hit in a good amount of time. So it's like rolling the dice, at some point you're going to roll snake eyes, and they're expecting a very busy hurricane season this time too. So it's like, like I say, Houston hasn't got hit in a while, and chances are we're going to get one at some point. So, take them serious and do what you got to do to keep yourself safe or whatever, wherever you are. That's basically what I want to say. It's like, I've been through a lot of these, and being that you are a native Houstonian like I am, and you've seen a lot of storms, you tend to like be relaxed. A lot of times we tend to take them for granted. A lot of times, and that's not necessarily a good thing overall. I wouldn't say go crazy, or whatever, but just be a little bit prepared just in case things get ugly. I'm hoping that it's a dud. I really am. I work in a restaurant, and if I don't work, I don't make money. So I would not like to see, I would love to not see interruption in work. Things have been slow already. It's the summertime. People are out of town. And, I would love to see things to kind of just keep going without interruption. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a dud here. If we just get a little bit of rain and things just kind of keep moving. But
with some isolated areas, even 12 to 15 inches. And the good news about this system, though, even with those high rainfall rates that we're talking about, it's keeping some momentum. It's not something that we expect to really stall out. So by the time we get to Tuesday morning, we're already moving up towards the Dallas area, and maybe still a tropical storm, maybe just a depression. But then by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon, that's up in the northeast Texas and exiting the state and heading on. And again, that movement is going to be good for those of us close to the coast because the rainfall will be somewhat less.
Yeah, so the Monday is the day for us in Houston, where if it's going to be problems, it's going to happen Monday. So whatever you have planned for Monday, maybe just keep a eye out and, be ready to change your plans if necessary. The rule of thumb in these hurricanes and these tropical storms, these big storms, is to not move around, kind of stay put and let it pass. That's pretty much the rule of thumb, because when people are moving around, that's usually when, they get hurt. Trying to do too much, trying to go somewhere in the middle of a storm or whatever. Sometimes you just get caught with your pants down. Hopefully, that won't happen. That's part of the reason why I'm covering this. But, if you know what's going on, don't move around during the time where things are going to be kind of crazy. You just stay put. What do they say? Don't drive through those puddles. It's like you don't know how deep they are. It's really difficult to determine how deep the water is when you're looking at it. A lot of times you think it's really shallow and you think you can drive through it, and you don't know until your car is floating away or something, or you go into one of those underpass or something and you're completely submerged. And these cars nowadays, they lock up, can't roll down the windows. The pressure of the water is on the windows. You can't break out of them. People drown. Like every storm, someone dies that way. So yeah, don't let that be you. Let's try to make good decisions. Let me see. I wanted to start with some lighter stuff. Oh yeah, I don't know if this is light, but
from the NFL, Minnesota Vikings rookie cornerback Kyrie Jackson was among 3 people killed early this morning in a multi-car collision in Maryland. Police say an alleged drunk driver appears to have caused the crash. New details coming in tonight and reaction from the NFL. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood.
Tonight, authorities in Maryland believe an alleged drunk driver is behind a horrific three-car crash just outside of Washington, D.C. that killed 24-year-old Viking star rookie Kyrie Jackson and two of his high school teammates. Just after 3 this morning, police say the driver of an Infiniti, identified as Corey Klingman, hit two cars changing lanes while speeding, causing a chain reaction. A Dodge Charger with Jackson and former college football stars Isaiah Hazel and Anthony Lighton Jr. inside, then slamming into several tree stumps.
The Minnesota Vikings select Kyrie Jackson.
Not even 3 months ago, the NFL's Minnesota Vikings drafted Jackson in the 4th round, a contender as starting cornerback. Tonight, the team devastated, saying our thoughts are with Kyrie's family, friends, teammates, and coaches, as well as all of the victims of this tragic accident.
And tonight, charges are pending against that driver, Corey Klingman. Police say no one else was injured in that crash. Whit?
Morgan Norwood, thank you. The tragic news from the NFL. Minnesota Vikings rookie cornerback Kyrie Jackson was among 3 people killed early this morning in a multi-car collision in Maryland.
Really, really, really sad. You know, you do all of that work, you grind for all of those years to finally get your payoff. It's like winning the damn lottery. And then something like this happens. Really unfortunate. Terrible, terrible news for his family and his friends and the guys that were in his car with him. You know, it's so dangerous out here, man. When you get on the roads, you know, it says just after 3 a.m. And, you know, I have a rule that I don't drive that at that time of night. I avoid driving at that time of night because it's really, really dangerous. You know, you have people going the wrong way on the freeway and you don't expect that, and you're not going to see it coming. If you're speeding the other car, y'all may not ever see each other. And that kind of thing happens a lot, way more than you think. And I just feel like, you know, for me, you know, I've seen a lot. And after 2 a.m., especially on like Fridays, Saturday nights, it's a good idea to be at the house, man. It really is. I mean, it's fun out there in them streets, but it's also dangerous out there in them streets, especially at that time of night. Like, people are on drugs, they've been drinking, they make bad decisions, and boom, you know, blink of an eye, everything is whole life changed. You know, stay off of those streets if you can at those times of night. It says police say an alleged drunk driver caused a 3-car crash in Maryland that killed Minnesota Vikings rookie Kyrie Jackson and 2 of his high school football teammates. Comments, it says drunk driving should be an automatic life sentence. Another one, it says, and that drunk driver survived, shaking my head. The drunk driver always survives in these situations. I think it's because they're drunk and their body is all limp. You know, you stiffen up if you're aware of the situation, and that stiffening up is what causes more damage to your body. I think that when you're drunk, you're just all flimsy and loose, and that's how you end up surviving these crashes. It's so unfortunate that the person that causes the crash ends up being the one who lives. Comment says, he had a whole life ahead of him, and who suffers the most? His family, his parents, siblings, close friends, coaches. Another comment says, why is it always drunk drivers who never suffer? Another one, it says, killing a human being while driving drunk should be an automatic life sentence without parole. May the 3 young men rest in peace. Really sad. Another comment says, so sad he was only 25. Another one, people are told not to drink and drive, yet people are still out here drinking and driving. Make it make sense. Stop drinking and driving, shaking my head. And you know, you're not going to stop these people from drinking and driving, so you have to protect yourself. And people always feel like, you know, I'm in control of my car and I'm not going to get into a wreck or whatever, but you can't control the other cars. You don't have any control of the other cars. So you have to be realistic. And like I'm saying, if, you know, it sucks that people drink and drive, but it's a good idea to not be on the road, after the clubs let out. In Texas, a lot of time, most of the places close at 2 a.m. because of the liquor deals. So you can't sell liquor after 2 a.m. in Texas. So people, the clubs closed, the bars closed, and people leave the bars and the clubs and they're drunk and they're on the road at 2:30, 3 a.m. or whatever. We do have after hour spots, but they tend to be like BYOB, some of the most dangerous places you want to be in too. Like, I ain't gonna lie, like craziness happens in those places, shootings, stabbings, sexual assaults. They tend to happen in those after hour joints. And, call me a lame, boring person, but hey, I love my life. I have children that I'm got to make it home to. So I'm not trying to be out there on the road past 2 a.m. Like, if I do go out to a bar or a club or something like that, I'm leaving before it closes. That's one of my rules. I've been having it for a long time. I leave before it closes. I've seen how it happens in these clubs where things get crazy right at closing time or right past closing time. Like even in the parking lot, things get crazy. People want the party to continue. The party it has ended, but they're like, nope, it hasn't ended. And the way they like, the way they have fun is through drama. So it's time for the drama to begin, I just avoid all of that as best I can, That's just why I like to drive myself to these places, because a party or whatever it is, I'm driving because when I'm ready to go, I can go. Then that way I don't have to look for anybody or whatever. Like people might be mad or whatever, or even if it's somebody riding with me, I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm bouncing, but I'll tell them beforehand, when I'm ready to go, I'm bouncing and I'm not looking for you. So, stay close to me or whatever, or otherwise you're gonna have to find a way home, because I'm not gonna be searching for somebody to ride them, to give them a ride. Like, I'm not doing that. Nope. And that's why a lot of times I like to go alone. I go by myself, whatever it is I'm doing. What is that song? Drink by myself, smoke by myself. It's like that. Like, when I'm ready to slide, I'm sliding. Slide right in and I slide right out. I don't want to get too heavy right away. Let's do this.
Coffee? Oh, yes, please. Thank you. Bro, what are you doing? They're obviously asking us to leave. What? They just asked if we wanted coffee. Doesn't that mean they want us to stay? Obviously, but they already served us tea, which means they have to go out of their way to make us another beverage, which implies that we would be burdening them, which further implies that they are politely asking us to leave. Bro, read the room. What? Are all people in Kyoto like this? Would you like some coffee or something else, perhaps? Oh, no, it's okay. I think we'll leave now. Bro, what are you doing? She asked if we wanted coffee and they already served us green tea. Doesn't that mean she wants us to leave? Bro, are you stupid? She then said, or something else, which implies that she's interested in your preference, which further implies that she's interested in you staying longer because she enjoys your company. Read the room, bro. These people have corrupted themselves with their own politeness. I mean, how are you ever supposed to understand what anybody's going to say if you're always trying to look for the subtext? They have crippled themselves with their own social norms. Hey, ramen 먹고 갈래? She wants me to eat ramyun? She wants you to eat something. That's I'm sorry. That's inappropriate. That's what that is. Would you like some coffee? Oh, yes, please.
The subtext of people's speech is really interesting to me. I don't know. I'm super sensitive to this kind of thing. Maybe it has to do with anthropology, or maybe it has to do with childhood and trauma or something. But like this kind of stuff is super interesting to me. But the part where he's like, these people have their culture has left them like, how did he put it? I don't know. It's in the comments. I'm gonna read it in the comments. But like trying to decipher what people mean, is frustrating as hell. And that's the reason why I'm the person that I am. I tend to be straightforward, and people take it as rude and off-putting or whatever. But I'd rather there not be any confusion, just be straightforward. I feel like I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough to decipher messages, and I don't care to take so much time to do it. When it's now, if it's I'm in an environment where it's like I'm at someone's house, or I'm in I don't know, another country or something like that, then that's different. But if it's loved ones, friends, family, or whatever, man, I'm not trying to decipher what the hell. Man, just tell me what the hell it is. What are we doing? What's going on here? What's happening? Can you be straightforward, please? This is really funny to me. This comment right here says, why is Roman inappropriate? I think they explain in the replies. Let's look at this. It says, it's Korean for Netflix and chill. It says, there's an Eddie Lizard joke that was basically the English equivalent to want to eat some ramen. Eating ramen together is not what's implied. Says, I didn't know there was a sexual subtext to that either. I thought they just wanted to have good food with them. I'll be over here practicing my Drake's impression since apparently I'm blind to subtext. Hold on. Another comment says, when I lived in Chengdu, I remember going to an antique shop to buy some calligraphy brushes and being sucked into a 40-minute tea drinking session with the shop owner. Every time I would set my cup down, he would refill it. So I guess, they refill the tea cup. They want you to stay. And it's like rude to be like, not drink it. Comment, it says, being autistic in Japan must be anxious. That's everywhere because people are weird when it comes to they expect you to just know certain things or whatever. And that's the thing I love about autistic people, because they're straightforward, and it's like that raw human, and the stuff we do is really weird to them because it's really apparent what you want or what you don't like or how you feel about something, but then you say something different or you act differently, and that causes a lot of confusion. It's like they're like, if you read minds, it's like it's not really hard to read people's minds. It's really not. But to be able to read people's minds doesn't make it any easier to deal with people, because they don't behave like the way you would think or whatever. Like they're trying to hide how they feel about things. Another comment says, I'm living in Kyoto. All compliments are definitely not compliments. They are passive aggressive as fuck. Another one, it says, don't forget the Kyoto. That's a nice watch you have, meaning you really are taking your sweet effing time. Couple more comments and I'm gonna move on. It says, in Midwest America, we slap our thighs and sigh loudly and say, well, when you're trying to get our guests to leave, and then say goodbye for another 30 minutes. Yep. In Texas, we're just like, yep. It's like, yep. Like, bruh, what are we doing here? Another comment says, the end result is everyone is terrified of offending or inconveniencing people, so they either get socially paralyzed, isolated, both. Yeah, that's what it is right there. But, that's kind of cool if you have a culture where people are, overly concerned with inconveniencing others. I think that's a good problem to have, as opposed to a culture where people just are completely oblivious to others, people's feelings. You know, that's really, really terrible. And that's what I see a lot. I see people who are so self-absorbed, they're completely unaware of others around them. People are props to them. Like, what I mean, like props in a movie. Like, they're just like furniture. Reading on, it says, don't get me wrong, I loved Japan, lived there for a year and a half altogether while I was in Tokyo, and it was incredible on so many levels. But I swear sometimes you just want to shake people and ask them to be more direct. It's exhausting, and I don't think anyone particularly even likes that aspect. They're just not brave enough to change it. That's what anime is for. Let's just fantasize a world where we tell people how we feel and make the move and do the thing and say it straight to their face. Boom. Makes sense. I love the anime stuff. I love the way they talk in it. There was a clip from an anime where they were arguing about water being wet. They were like, is water wet? And then they went on to have this montage argument about if water is wet or not. Anyways, it was really good to me, entertaining to me. One more comment. It says, in Kurdish culture, when we serve the fruit, that means we're telling you it's the end of the night and you need to leave in the next hour, but not immediately. However, the secret addition thing after that, which is rarely used, is if we offer coffee after the fruit, that means we're really enjoying your company and are welcome to you staying longer than expected. Yeah, that shit is way too much to decipher, man. Just be like, hey, it's getting late. I'm about to lay it down. I'll holler at you tomorrow. Okay. Some people are literally being rude when you're kind of trying to ask them to leave in a nice way, and then they're not leaving. Be like, don't you have somewhere to go, bro? Like, don't you have something to do? Like, let me see. Where do we want to go? Do we want to do headlines before we? Let's do some quick headlines before we get into it. Okay, headlines. AP top headline. It says, at Essence, Black Democrats rally behind Biden and talk up Kamala Harris. Of course they do. Vice President Kamala Harris is leading a parade of Black Democrats who warn that the threat of another Donald Trump presidency is the most important calculation ahead of November. Of course it is. It's, it's the most important election of your lifetime. Like, the world's going to come to an end if you don't go vote, or if you vote and you vote for the wrong person, it's just going to collapse. Hawaii governor says Biden could decide within days whether to remain in the presidential race. Well, he already said only Jesus can get him to step down. So he says, I'm running. It says, to a defiant Biden, the 2024 race is up to the voters, not the Democrats on Capitol Hill. Another headline. It says, the Biden campaign drafted questions for the president's interview on a pair of Black radio shows. What? The Biden campaign drafted questions for the president's interviews on a pair of Black radio shows. What the hell are they talking about? I'm not even curious enough to click on that. It says, another headline, it says, the French far right is ahead in the first round of snap elections. Here's what's next. Yeah. What is it? Le Pen? Maria Le Pen? Let's look at this a little bit. It says, in France Moment of Truth, here's how snap elections work and what comes next. Yeah, so Macron called the election after they have like a coalition government deal over there, and they, his party took on losses when they did that particular election. So for some reason, he felt like it was a time to, because he was going to have to call election anyway before the end of the year. And so he felt like it was a good time to call election. And I don't know if that was a good idea, because now his party is pretty much out of there. Is there a video? We don't want ads. Vistaprint.
Anti-immigrant party has come out on top of France's. A far-right anti-immigrant party has come out on top of France's historic parliamentary elections. But this is only the first round. The decisive second-round runoff is Sunday. Marine Le Pen's national rally is on track to have the most seats in the next French parliament. However, we'll only find out Sunday if she has an absolute majority and can form a new government. So, centrist President Emmanuel Macron will stay president for the next 3 years, but he will be very weakened, both domestically and on the world stage. And his decision to call these snap elections is looking like a massive political miscalculation. Many voters see Macron as out of touch with their concerns, particularly their economic concerns, and as part of a kind of arrogant Parisian elite. Marine Le Pen has tapped into that frustration, notably by blaming immigrants for many of France's problems. Her party would scale back rights of people with immigrant backgrounds. And that has a lot of her rivals concerned. They see this as a threat to human rights and to France's democratic ideals. This could have implications beyond France. If Macron has to share power with the far right, that's a system called cohabitation in France, where you have the president and prime minister from opposing political camps. And that could have implications such as the far-right prime minister might want to halt France's support for Ukraine, or derail Macron's efforts to fight climate change, or even erect new borders within Europe. A few scenarios are possible on Sunday. One is that the far-right gets an absolute majority, and then they get to name a prime minister in a situation called cohabitation in France. Another is that no party has an absolute majority, but the far-right has the most seats in parliament. At that point, Macron could name a prime minister from the far-right national rally, or they could have some kind of technocratic government where they try to come up with people to run the government who are not part of any party. However, either situation is likely to lead to long legislative gridlock, and it will make it very hard for Macron or France to pass any new policy.
Yeah, Macron is detached. And I don't think people really liked him from the jump. Like, he barely made it in there the first time. And it's like, let's read some of this. Hold on. Who wrote this? Got to give credit. Sylvie Corbet, July 6, 2024. It says, French voters face a decisive choice Sunday in the runoff snap parliamentary elections that could produce the country's first far-right government since World War II Nazi occupation, or no majority emerging at all. Can't read today. Marine Le Pen's anti-immigration nationalist party national rally stands a chance of winning a legislative majority for the first time, but the outcome remains uncertain because of complex voting system and tactical maneuvers by political parties. So, a complex voting system. Don't they just have the one where you choose your first pick and second pick and third pick or whatever, and then they move around? I want to say that's how it goes. So, I mean, I wouldn't really call that complex. I don't know why they said that. What's happening Sunday? Voters across France and overseas territories can cast ballots for 501 of the 577 seats in the National Assembly, the lower and most important of France's two houses of parliament. The other 76 races were won outright in the first round of voting. The National Rally and its allies arrived ahead in round one with around 1/3 of the votes. A coalition of center-left, hard-left, and Green parties called the New Popular Front comes in second position, well ahead of President Emmanuel Macron's struggling centrist alliance. In the frantic week between the two rounds, more than 200 centrist and left-wing candidates pulled out of races to boost the chances for their moderate rivals and try to keep National Rally candidates from winning. Sounds familiar. Final pre-election polls suggest that tactic may have diminished the far right's chances of an absolute majority, but Le Pen's party has wider and deeper support than ever before, and it's up to the voters to decide. What are possible outcomes? Polling projections suggest that the National Rally is likely to have the most seats in the next National Assembly, which would be a historic first. If it wins an absolute majority of 289 seats, Macron will be expected to appoint National Rally President Jordan Bardella as France's new prime minister. Bardella could then form a government, and he and Macron would share power in a system called cohabitation. If the party doesn't win a majority but still has a large number of seats, Macron could name Bardella anyway, though the National Rally might refuse out of fears that its government could be ejected in a no-confidence vote. Or Macron could seek to build a coalition with moderates and possibly choose a prime minister from the center left. That's likely. If there's no party with clear mandate to govern, Macron could name a government of experts unaffiliated with political parties. Such a government would likely deal mostly with day-to-day affairs of keeping France running. So it'd be like a manager, like some of us here in the States, some states do that. Like they'll have like a governor, but the governor is just like a figurehead, and they'll have like a manager that manages the things. I forget what they call that. Complicated matters. Any of those options will require parliamentary approval. If political tanks take too long amid summer holidays and the July 26th, August 11th Olympics in Paris, Macron's centrist government could keep a transitional government pending further decisions. I don't want to bore y'all with this, but it's like this stuff is what, it influences the politics here in the States. Big time. Let me see. It says Trump denies. Let me see this. Trump denies knowing about Project 2025, a plan to transform government, and Trump's claim to be unaware of it. Yeah, I know he's not telling the truth with that. It's kind of always irritating to me when politicians, they claim that they don't know stuff. Like, on the one hand, Trump is always like, we've got the best numbers. We got the best numbers. We're the best. I hired the most, the best people to be in the cabinet. The most qualified people. Da 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 da. And then you turn around and say you don't know something about something. Like, okay, well, who's dropping the ball, bro? Is it you? Is it your people? What's happening? Let me see these captions. Caption, it says, Republican presidential candidate for President Donald Trump speaks at a campaign rally June 22nd, 2024 in Philadelphia. Trump seeking to distance himself from a plan of a massive overhaul of the federal government drafted by some of his administration officials. Some of these men are expected to take high-level roles in the Republican presumptive nominee. If the Republican presumptive nominee is elected back into the White House, Trump is saying on Truth Social that he knows nothing about Project 2025. Yeah, right, buddy. It says Kevin Roberts, president of Heritage Foundation, speaks in Washington April 12, 2023. Former President Donald Trump is seeking to distance himself from a plan for a massive overhaul of the federal government drafted by some of the administration officials. They're just going to say the same thing? Let's read. By Adriana Gomez Lycan, July 6, 2024. Donald Trump has distanced himself from the Project 2025, a massive proposed overhaul of the federal government drafted by longtime allies and former officials in his administration. Days after the head of the think tank responsible for the program suggested there would be a second American Revolution. I know nothing about Project 2025, Trump posted on his social media website. I have no idea who is behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. Well, for them to pull this stuff off, don't they need you to be in there? And when he's really smart when he's like vague, like some of the things I disagree with and some of the stuff is abysmal or whatever. Like, which things do you find abysmal about it? You know, can you be a little more specific so we can know where you really stand on this? The 922-page plan outlines a dramatic expansion of presidential power and a plan to fire as many as 50,000 government workers to replace them with Trump loyalists. President Joe Biden's re-election campaign has worked to draw more attention to the agenda, particularly as Biden tries to keep fellow Democrats on board after his disastrous debate. Yeah, I noticed that. So after the debate, then you started seeing all of these news stories about Project 2025. So it's like, you know, it's the magic trick. It's like, look over here, don't look over there, look over here. Yeah, I did notice that. They flooded us with these 2025 articles right after that, right after the debate. They were probably sitting in a room and it was like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? They keep talking about Biden not being coherent, and he keeps on talking and proving that he isn't coherent. How can we distract them? How can we get their mind on something else? Well, we need to make it look like there's an existential threat of democracy. You know what? Let's focus on that 2025 agenda thing. You know, send that out to the presses. Let them make a bunch of news stories about that. It says, he's trying to hide his connection to his allies' extreme Project 2025 agenda, Biden said of Trump in a statement released by his campaign Saturday. The only problem, it was written for him by those closest to him. Project 2025 should scare every single American. Trump has outlined his own plans to remake the government if he wins a second term, including staging the largest deportation operation in U.S. history and imposing tariffs on potentially all imports. His campaign has previously warned outside allies not to presume to speak for the former president and suggest their transition and writing efforts were unhelpful. So, you know, at the end of the day, Trump is a politician. So how much of this stuff is he actually going to get done? And how much of this stuff is really just to get votes? Because, you know, to a lot of people saying largest deportation and operation in U.S. history and imposing tariffs on potentially all imports sounds pretty good. You know, a lot of people are going to say that sounds pretty good. But how much how many people is he really going to be able to deport? You know, and is he really going to be able to impose tariffs on all imports? It says potentially all imports. I think they'll fall short on both of those measures. You know, they will make moves in that direction, but they can't. There's no way they can impose tariffs on all imports. It wouldn't be wise. And deportations is gonna be, you know, the system, the way things are set up, I mean, you know, the president has a certain amount of power, but he still has to go through, you know, the way the system is set up. And it's going to be a lot of traps or things that's going to impede his ability to just straight up deport a bunch of people. Like, some of them will be easy to deport or whatever. But we know, those that do know, the majority of the people that's over here illegally are people who stayed past their visas, like work visas and school visas and stuff like that. So these are people that came over legally. They are the majority of folks that are here illegally at the moment or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They are the illegal immigrants, the majority of them. But the politics aren't looking at those people. Like, those aren't the people that they want. They want people coming across the southern border, you know. So the problem is, you don't know who those people are or where they are. If they don't have documentation, how can you go about deporting them? So it'd be really easy to deport those people who stayed over past their visas, because you know where they live and everything. You just go pick them up. But those aren't the people that they really want. You know, you understand what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, a lot of this is talk, is politics. Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts said on Steve Bannon's War Room podcast Tuesday, the Republicans are in the process of taking this country back. Former U.S. Representative Dave Brad of Virginia hosted the show for Bannon, who is serving a 4-month prison term. Yeah, Bannon's locked up. He's in jail. We are in the process of a second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be, Roberts said. So this is that line that has been floating around. I've been seeing it a lot floating down my social media. We're in the process of a second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it. So that sounds like a threat, you know. Yeah, I don't know if this guy didn't choose his words correctly or whatever, but, you know, that sounds like a threat. That's the reason why people are latching on to this little comment right there. Those comments were widely circulated online and assailed by Biden's campaign, which accused Trump and his allies of dreaming of a violent revolution to destroy the very idea of America. Some of the people involved in Project 2025 are former senior administration officials. The project's director is Paul Dans, who served as chief of staff at the U.S. Office of Personnel Management under Trump. Trump's campaign spokeswoman, Caroline Leavitt, was featured in one of Project 2025's videos. John McEntee, a former director of the White House Presidential Personnel Office in the Trump administration, is a senior advisor. McEntee told the conservative news site The Daily Wire earlier the year that the Project 2025's team would integrate a lot of its work with the campaign after the summer when Trump would announce his transition team. So, yeah, it is kind of scary, though, at the end of the day, that what these people are trying to do. Now, they're not going to be successful in a lot of this stuff, but what I was saying a lot is, you know, Trump is being used as a tool for people to get stuff done that they've been trying to get done for decades. And, you know, these people aren't going to stop. Trump's going to go away, you know, at some point. You know, he could win and he'll be in there for 4 years and then he's going to be gone, you know. But these people are going to be still trying to accomplish the stuff that they want to accomplish. Trump's comments on Project 2025 come before the Republican Party's meetings this coming week to begin to draft its party platform. Project 2025 has been preparing its own 180-day agenda for the next administration that it plans to share privately, rather than as part of its public-facing book of priorities for the Republican president. A key Trump ally, Russ Vought, who contributed to the Project 2025 and is drafting this final pillar, is also on the Republican National Committee's platform writing committee. Let's finish this up. Project 2025 said in a statement, it's not tied to a specific candidate or campaign. See, that's what I mean. They don't really, Trump is a tool for them, you know. Whoever comes along later, they're going to ascribe or subscribe or attach this stuff to them. You know, Trump has taken the Republican Party into a particular direction, and these people are going to try to keep it going, you know, after Trump. They're thinking down the line. I think a lot of the Trump supporters aren't looking past 4 years, you know, because a lot of the stuff that's motivating them is, you know, Trump is the center of it, you know. But first off, Trump is not Jesus. Trump is not Jesus, but he's not going to be, he can only be, he's already been president. He can only do another 4 years. And that's it. So, I mean, you know, the Trump supporters, are they looking past 4 years? You know, a lot of the stuff that they're pushing for is to, you know, give advantages to Trump or whatever, to save Trump or to support Trump or whatever. It's Trump centered. But if you know, if you open that Pandora's box and allow presidential immunity and all of this stuff, like more power for the president, then whoever comes along afterwards is going to be able to take advantage of that too. So I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but you know, at some point the Democrats will be in control and they will use that stuff how they want to use it. Does that make sense? I don't think that people are looking past these 4 years. Let me read on. It says, we are a coalition of more than 110 conservative groups advocating policy and personal recommendations for the next conservative president, it said. But it is ultimately up to that president, who we believe will be President Trump, to decide which recommendations to implement. Okay. A Biden campaign spokesperson said 2025 staff members are also leading the Republican policy platform. Project 2025 is the extreme policy and personal playbook for Trump's second term that should scare the hell out of American people, said Amar Moussa. On Thursday, as the country celebrated Independence Day and Biden prepared for his television interview after his halting debate performance, the president's campaign posted on X a shot from the dystopian TV drama The Handmaid's Tale, showing a group of women in the show's red dresses and white hats standing in formation by a reflecting pool with a cross at the far end where the Washington Monument should be. The story revolves around women who were stripped of their identities and forced to give birth to children for other couples in a totalitarian regime. 4th of July under Trump's Project 2025, the Post said. I saw one of those memes. So I wonder, was it the Democrats who put those memes? I think that people don't realize what be happening on social media when it comes to like the memes. People automatically just think that a regular person just made these memes or whatever. But you know that they control the algorithm. They manipulate the algorithm. They push certain things to go viral, whatever. And you have regular, like, the DNC or the RNC or AIPAC or whatever creating these memes, and you know they get shared by your friends or whatever, but they originally came from them and they know what they're doing and they're controlling the discourse with these memes, you know, leading to certain ways of thinking or whatever. You know, it's a form of manipulation. It's a form of like propaganda or whatever, you know, outrage, you know, get you upset, get you emotional, get you going, and And they leave it to you to share and like and to make it bigger than what it is, but they know what's going to trigger you and they put it out there. And you think it's coming from your friend or whatever, but it might have came straight from the DNC, straight from the RNC, straight from APAC. They have bots. They have like a army of bots that are online that pose as regular folks, leaving comments, sharing memes. Says the Biden campaign drafted questions for the presidential view on a pair of black radio shows. I don't really understand that. Average IQ is 100. What's yours? Answer 20 multiple choice questions to fund. The question about Biden's age and fitness are reminiscent of another campaign Reagan, 1984. Fact focus, Trump wasn't exonerated by the presidential immunity ruling, even though he says he was or whatever. So yeah, he's I know that the documents case, he's asking for them to throw that out as a result. And I think one of the other cases, he's asking for them to throw it out as a result of the Supreme Court ruling. And it complicates things because then, the lower courts are going to have to determine what they mean by, what was it? What was the language? It said official acts. So they got to determine what is official acts and what isn't. It's funny that this article brought up the 1984 thing. I've been seeing the t-shirt that people are wearing, and it says Reagan, Bush, 1984. And I'm like, what does that really mean? Like, I know it means something, and I can't really put my finger on it, but I know that it's important. Because that was a long time ago. People wear campaign t-shirts of campaigns that are happening. Wearing a campaign shirt from 1984 is a statement. It's not a clothing choice. It's a statement. And then they're talking about Reagan, 1984. That makes me wonder. Let's see what's gonna pop up. See, Bush, Reagan, 1984. Vintage shirt is going for $200. And then they got like the updated version going for $23, $28. Another vintage shirt, $189. You pay $189 for a t-shirt? That's crazy. For a campaign t-shirt. They were giving those out for free for sure during the election. Look at this. Original 1984 Reagan Bush 84 campaign t-shirt, $189. Vintage shirt, 1984 Reagan Bush, $200. What is it with that? Can somebody help me understand that? know I'm losing y'all, but let's follow this rabbit hole. United States presidential election 1984. United States presidential election of 1984, American presidential election held on November 6, 1984, in which Republican Ronald Reagan was elected to a second term, defeating Democrat Walter Mondale, a former U.S. vice president. Reagan won 49 states. 49 states. Like, oh my God, that's all of them. En route to amassing 525 electoral votes to Mandela's 13, one of the biggest landslides in U.S. election history. The election was also notable for being the first time a major party had a woman on its ticket. Geraldine Ferraro, Mandela's running mate. Was that the last time a Republican won the popular vote? At a glance, the election in 1984. Look at this. What state is that? Michigan? That's the only one that went blue? Crazy. He got 54,000. Yeah, he won the popular vote. Clearly, he won all those states. That's still a lot of votes for the Democratic side, 37,000, and he only got 13 electoral votes. How does that happen? During the primaries, Reagan faced no opposition and was easily renominated by the Republican Party. On the Democratic side, however, the 1984 campaign was notable. Jesse Jackson, an eloquent African-American preacher who had been a young activist in the civil rights movement in the 1960s, announced his candidacy for the Democratic presidential nominee in 1983. At the time, no one believed he would win either nomination or election, but his public stature guaranteed him equal opportunity to compete seriously for the nomination. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I was too young to really be in, like, I was a baby. So there was no way I could have been, like, really just paying attention to this. But I really wouldn't be surprised if this was similar to how they did Bernie Sanders. I'm willing to bet, because knowing how the Democratic Party moves and how they roll, and that's probably why they got mashed. They probably screwed Jesse Jackson. I bet you they pushed him to the side and put this guy up. And, you know, he was knighted by the Democratic Party or whatever, anointed, if you will. And then they got mashed. That's the damn Democrats. They get paid to lose. They freaking be losing on purpose. Like, they'd rather lose than have representation from their side that they don't approve of or whatever. You know, that's not anointed by the power, by the party. So I'm all in the bed. Jesse Jackson was like an outsider, and it was like, nah, first off, you black. So it's a no. But who knows? Maybe Jesse Jackson could have ended up being the first black president. You know, hindsight, whatever. People can say, you know, whatever. But I'm just speculating here. The Democratic primaries were contested, in addition to Jackson, by one former governor, Reuben Askew of Florida, 2 former senators, George McGovern in South Dakota and Mandel, and 4 incumbent senators, Alan Cranston of California, John Glenn of Ohio, Gary Hart of Colorado, and Ernest Hollings of South Carolina. The pre-primary odds markers had favored Mandel, with Glenn considered the strongest challenger, but Glenn ran a lackluster campaign and foundered early, so did most of the others, but Hart came in second in the Iowa caucus and won the New Hampshire primary. Quick to spot what seemed to be a trend, the media all but wrote off Mandel. No longer the frontrunner, Mandel abandoned his defensive stance, borrowing a slogan from a television commercial from the hamburger chain Wendy's, "Where's the beef?" He found a way to deflate Hart's pretensions as a candidate of new ideas and finally slogged his way to the nomination. Mandel made history by choosing as his running mate Geraldine Ferraro, the first woman selected by a major political party for a presidential ticket. At the time, Ferraro was a 3-term congresswoman from New York, and it was hoped that her nomination would galvanize the campaign. So yeah, they obviously felt some kind of way. But this sounds like the Democrat shooting himself in the foot. Like, it did initially, but the Democrat ticket was derailed almost immediately by a month-long controversy over the finances of Ferraro and her husband, a New York real estate operator. The Mandel-Ferraro ticket attempted without success to find an issue that would resonate with voters. Fairness between rich and poor, allegedly favored by Reagan aides and Reagan's close ties with aggressive fundamentalist groups, all failed to dent the approval ratings of the man's supporters, called the Great Communicator, and enemies called the Teflon President, because no charges ever stuck to him. Sounds familiar? Perhaps worst for the Mandel campaign, however, was Mandel's pledge to the Democratic Convention in San Francisco, where he stated, "By the end of my term, I will reduce the Reagan budget deficit by 2/3. Let's tell the truth. It must be done. It must be done. Mr. Reagan will raise taxes, and so will I. I won't tell you. I just did." And isn't that famous line that Reagan was like, "No new taxes. Read my lips." This pledge to raise taxes backfired, giving Reagan and the Republican ammunition in their desire to paint Democrat ticket as tax and spend liberals. A brief upward blip in Mandel's fortune came when, in the first of 2 national televised debates, Reagan appeared tired and confused. His inept performance brought into the open the hitherto unmentioned issue of Reagan's age, 73, and for a brief interval, the Democrats took heart. By the second debate, however, the president was back in command. So this is what that other article was talking about that I saw that kind of led me in this direction, talking about Reagan's age at 73 and where Reagan appeared tired and confused and had an inept performance. By the second debate, however, the president was back in command. Mandel needed a major Reagan mistake, and it did not come. Indeed, at that second debate on October 28th, Reagan was asked about being the oldest president in U.S. history and whether there was any doubt he could do the job. Reagan disarmingly responded, saying, "I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience." Oh, that was clever right there. I see what you did there. That was pretty sharp right there. Laughter included from Mandel ensued. With that statement, age became a non-issue, and Democrats saw little hope of stopping the Reagan juggernaut. Apart from the debates, the president appeared only in controlled and euphoric settings. Insulated from the press, his campaign capitalized on it. See, that's what they need to do with freaking Biden. Like, bruh, don't have no interviews with this guy. Like, stop letting him like eat ice cream and do interviews and stuff. Like, close the press, send him away. Like, don't no pictures, nothing. Like, bruh, it's not helping y'all. Let's see. Where did I stop? Apart from the debates, the president appeared only in controlled and euphoric settings, insulated from the press. His campaign capitalized on a new mood of national pride and self-congratulation that had reached a peak in Los Angeles Olympic Games. The economic recovery helped. Interviewers and exit pollers found a preference for Reagan, even among voters who disagreed with administration policies, because for them, he represented leadership, patriotism, and optimism. Boom. That sounds really familiar. So I don't know. So maybe that's what it is. They see Trump as a Reagan. They see Reagan and Trump. They making some kind of comparison between Trump and Reagan. Is that why the people are wearing the Reagan Bush 84 t-shirts? I'm really trying to understand that. Reagan won virtually every demographic group except African Americans. His margin of victory over Mandela was nearly 17 million popular votes, the second largest in history. It was surpassed only by Richard Nixon's margin over McGovern in 1972. His electoral landslide, 525-13, was second only to Franklin Roosevelt's 5,238 margin over Alf Landon in 1936. Mandela carried only the District of Columbia 3 electoral votes. By a convincing margin, he won his home state of Minnesota. That was Minnesota. By a scant 3,800 votes, less than 0.2%. This is interesting stuff right here. So he got every demographic except African Americans. I wonder why. Anyways, I need a short break. I need a voice break. Hold on. I want to play some of this. Let's play some of this. Is that what we want to play, or do I have something else? Hold on. I'm going to be jumping around if I play that. $18 seconds. 57 seconds. Hold on, y'all. Trying to decide here. Screw it. This one is the guy from Germany. It says Germany's first African-born MP quits after years of racial abuse.
And finally, from Germany, the nation's first African-born member of parliament, Karamba Diaby, has announced his decision to step away from politics after enduring years of racist abuse. The 62-year-old MP, who began his tenure in 2013, has communicated that he will not be contesting in the upcoming federal election. The MP says that he and his team have been subjected to hate mail, racist name-calling, and even death threats. Our next report explains the MP's turbulent political career.
On a cloudy morning in September 2013, a chemist born in Senegal received a warm welcome in Germany's parliament. Karamba Diaby was elected as the country's first member of parliament with African roots. On being asked how he felt about his election, he said there's a bit of excitement, there's curiosity, and of course, about what's coming. But little did he know, the turmoil in his political career had just started. Soon after taking his seat, Karamba Diaby was beaten up. He received death threats and insulting emails and was left scarred for being a black man. An alarm was raised when the German MP discovered bullet holes in the windows of his constituency office. Taking to social media, Diaby wrote that he was horrified and shocked with the hate he was receiving. But nothing shunted his morale, and he vowed to fight back. However, very soon a series of death threats quickly took over Diaby's political career. On a near-daily basis, he was intimidated up to an extent that Germany had to toughen online speech laws. Diaby had become prey to virtual haters who were time and again criticizing him for his race and his color. In February 2020, the German government approved a new package of measures instructing social media networking firms such as Facebook and Twitter, now X, to quickly remove any offending content intimidating any German politician. But shockwaves were sent across the country when just last year, Karamba Diaby reported that his offices had been targeted in another arson attack. While everyone escaped unhurt, Diaby said his offices would be out of service for some time. And now, after years of torture and racial discrimination, German MP Karamba Diaby has resigned. He announced that he would not stand in next year's federal election. Diaby's decision came just weeks after he laid out a litany of hate messages that he and his staff received. Though he claims that the racist slurs and death threats were not the main reasons for his latest decision. However, it is widely believed that they have played a part in Diaby wanting to walk away from politics. Working alongside the Social Democrats Party for nearly 2 decades, Diaby promised to remain active in the SPD campaigns, especially in the coming 15 months leading to the elections in September 2025.
Across continents, one powerful news source.
Bringing you diverse perspectives on the issues that matter.
We go beyond the boundaries to give you that little extra about every sporting moment.
Yeah, so Germany. 2 days ago, let's read some comments. It says, Germany must stop lecturing other countries. Another one, it says, thanks for exposing Germany's deep-seated inhumanity. Another comment, West behavior not charged with African and Asian, but African and Asian have bright future. West is dying. It says, if you never experienced racism in the West, then you're never ambitious enough. It says Germany remains a racist country. It says he must be very good for him to keep winning in Germany. I'll not be surprised if these threats and hate actions are largely sponsored by his political opponents. Oh, that's interesting. It says that's why Africa should stand up and build Africa. No more Western looting in Africa. No more visa free for Europeans traveling to Africa. Africans deserve good living and development too. Africa must be respected and treated equally. Yeah. It always looks like, they've moved forward. What is it? You take 2 steps forward and you take 1 step forward and take 2 steps back. We talked about Marie Le Pen and, France. They were looting in France as a result of it. And a lot of the stuff has been saying that, You know, it's the left burning the country down and all of this. Like, there may be some truth to that, actually. But that's what they always say. Let me play some of this because I'm still kind of trying to rest my voice a bit.
It's extraordinary that we routinely hear.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, people were saying Sky News is a left-leaning network. They're absolutely not. And I think that this report right here kind of shows that.
In Marine Le Pen's party described as fascists, and yet who are acting like the fascists? It's an element of the radical far left.
France erupts in chaos. Protesters flooding the streets, threatening the very foundations of democracy. The nation reeling from unprecedented mayhem and braces for more unrest. So what sparked this alarming descent into turmoil? Sky News Digital Originals presents France Erupts. We're seeing disturbing scenes of rioting across France after the first round of voting in the election. Parts of the population not happy with the National Rally Party's success. It's a troubling display of intolerance towards democratic outcomes.
On Monday, one of Le Pen's candidates was assaulted in the Channel port of Cherbourg. A group of well-known rappers have released a song calling on voters to vote for the left and saying that if Le Pen's party wins, it's time to take out their guns and saying, Jordan, as in Jordan Bardella, you're dead.
A group of well-known rappers.
What's the response of the left, of Emmanuel Macron, who, by the way, has sided extraordinarily? He has now called on voters to vote for the left, to vote for Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who makes no secret of his hatred of the police. And so we've got the President of the Republic siding with a party that wants to defund the police. It is an extraordinary situation, and it just shows the moral squalor of France today, and an element of France. Now,
doesn't this sound a lot like what they're saying here in the States? It sounds so familiar to me. And saying that Macron is of the left is not very accurate. You know, even what his coalition is called the centrist coalition or whatever the hell, and it's all like austerity measures and all of this, you know, cutting social programs and stuff like that. So it's not left. You know, maybe when you are considered an actual centrist, then that means that you're going to be more not extreme right or extreme left, or, you know, trying to find the middle ground or whatever.
There are, of course, some people, I would say a minority of people who vote for Marine Le Pen, who do so because there is a racist tinge there. But in general, if you look at the opinion polls, the reason that people vote for Le Pen, and don't forget that in the first round of Sunday's election, her party received 12 million votes.
Doesn't that sound familiar again too? Because he's like, Marine Le Pen, maybe there is a bit of a racist tinge to her, and he's like, it's the minority of people that are racist that vote for her or whatever. You know, doesn't that sound familiar?
2 years ago, in the parliamentary election, it received 4 million votes. So it has tripled in 2 years. No one on the left, Macron, they're not asking, why is this? The reason is because of this sense of abandonment that people in the provinces feel. Now, I know this because I'm speaking to you from Burgundy, which is about 100 miles south of Paris. And this is overwhelmingly National Rally, Le Pen territory. In fact, her candidate won over 50% of the vote in the first round, which means he's automatically elected. That's a sign of how much support she has. And when I speak to people here, such as my builder, my electrician, my plumber, my house is having some renovation at the moment, they're Le Pen supporters. I ask them why. It's not because of immigration. It's not because of racism. It's because of a sense that Paris and 2/3 of Macron's government are Parisians. And incidentally, in 2002, after the last elections, his 43 of his ministers, out of that number, 19 were millionaires. So that gives you some idea of a complete and utter disconnect between this Paris elite and the rest of the country.
Doesn't that sound familiar? And it's true that a lot of these, the Democrats, a lot of them are really wealthy, and that's true. And it's also true that it's economic reasons that's driving the politics. Okay. And so a lot of people weren't not happy with Macron and the direction that the country is going in, mostly driven by economic reasons. And it's the same here in the States. And when the Democrats don't make moves to deal with the economic issues of the everyday person, that leads them to, traditional Democratic voters to move over to the Republican side. It's like, if you guys can't get the job done, then, we're going to have to find somebody else to do it. And that's the same position that these people are over here in France. And he's going to go on to talk about how it's the rural areas that support Le Pen overwhelmingly, and it's the same here in the States. The rural areas are the ones who really, really support Trump heavily, so there's definitely a connection there.
And very interestingly, in Paris, there's 18 MPs in Paris. Le Pen's National Rally was wiped out. Paris is a different country to the rest of France. And this is something that Macron refuses to accept. And it's this sense of anger that's building. And I think this is why so many people are worried about what the future holds, because there are two distinct Frances now.
So, Paris is a big city, and the it's like the rest of the country is small, rural areas. So yeah, it's different. And again, it's like that here in the States, and that's where the Democrat, the politics are different in big cities from rural areas. People look at things differently. A lot of it has to do with, like, when you talk about immigration, specifically immigration, people in rural areas don't really interact with immigrants very much. They don't know, they don't see them. They're not visible. In the cities, they are, and you interact with them. So as a result of interacting with them and seeing them as real people, seeing them as humans, trying to get by just like everybody else, you tend to have more sympathy for them. When you're out there and you don't never see them, then you it's easier to make them it's easier to use them as a political tool to blame them, scapegoat them.
There's metropolitan France, affluent, doing quite well out of life. The somewheres, the anywheres, I beg your pardon. And then there's the rest of the France, the somewheres.
France is now just days away from the second round of voting, and there is a real element of fear across the country after the chaos that ensued following the first round of votes.
I think one could draw a comparison with the Brexit vote in the UK 8 years ago, that there was an element the majority of people who voted to remain respected. They didn't like it, but they respected the democratic process. But there was a significant minority, including, unfortunately, many politicians who tried to overturn that vote. And the sort of mood music coming out of France, or the institutions, or the unions, is not good. And extraordinarily, some teachers' unions saying that they're, advocating civil disobedience. These are the same people who raged against Donald Trump and his supporters when they stormed the Capitol, quite rightly. And yet they see nothing wrong. And this is where the immorality of a section of the left, just a section, who, because they feel so virtuous, they feel that they can do what they want if the vote doesn't go their way. And so I think there is a real a sense of unease, and the police are on standby. Many shops in the centre of Paris and Lyon and Bordeaux and other cities, they boarded up their windows on Sunday night after the first round. There were a few disturbances, nothing widespread. But I think that if Le Pen wins, and if she wins an absolute majority, in other words, more than half the seats in the National Assembly, I fear we will see not only street violence, but I think from unions, from some institutions, in effect, civil disobedience. And don't forget, and this is why so many people are incredulous, that Macron called this snap election at the beginning of June after his heavy defeat in the European elections, because what happens on July the 26th? The Olympics. And so we could very well have a situation where France is in a chaotic state, more sort of a civil unrest, and the world's eyes are going to be focused on the country. It's a very alarming situation. And many respected figures, former politicians, have expressed their bewilderment at what Macron has done.
The irony of this outcome is that France didn't need to head to the polls just yet. French President Emmanuel Macron took a gamble calling an early election, and it looks to be a bad bet.
Why did he do it? That's what people, apparently his prime minister, Gabriel Attal, was amazed. He wasn't consulted, incidentally, and nor were any of his cabinet. And it was the act, many people believe, of a petulant child that Macron is at heart. This is a man whose life has been one success after another. Don't forget, too, he's an inexperienced politician. He's only been in politics for 10 years as an advisor to Francois Hollande's socialist government.
Yeah, this guy is so detached. Like he said, one success after another. He married a really rich lady. He was like in finance or whatever, like Wall Street type person. He wasn't Wall Street, but that's, though that type of person. And, like this guy is completely detached from the life of an average person. Like he has no idea, what regular folks are going through. And I think that he was put up there, he was one of those ones that were anointed, chosen, to try to keep it. It's kind of like how the Democrats work here in the States, where they want to placate to the right to get votes and to win or whatever. Like they feel like the Democrats feel like for them to win, they have to win over Republicans or whatever, and they tend to put a lot of effort in doing that, and instead of placating to their base. And that's a losing strategy, I would say, but to keep from the left becoming in power, then you put someone up like this guy. And like I was saying in the other show, you just kind of prolong the inevitable. It causes a snapback. The people get frustrated, and then this is what you get. Macron's reign has been plagued with demonstrations, and I'm surprised he has survived this long, honestly. Yeah, people really don't like this guy. He's like the poster child for the elite.
And frankly, it shows. His presidency has been domestically and internationally not a success. And he reacted this way because of his heavy defeat in the European elections when Le Pen's party got about 31% of the vote. His party, that it was second best, got about 14.5%. So absolutely wiped out. And he said, okay, let's call an election then and see, put it to the people. So the people said, more or less gave exactly the same result. 1 in 3 voters vote for Marine Le Pen's party. And it wasn't really a surprise. So it wasn't so much a gamble as suicide. And it's thrown France into this situation now. As I said, the Olympics coming up. If he wanted to hold this election, why not do it in September? That's the argument you hear after the Olympics. To do it now, when everyone, the polls had shown consistently, the French polls are never wrong. They said before the first round of the parliamentary elections that Le Pen's party would really repeat her success at the European elections, and so they did. The country has swung dramatically away from Macron, and he's achieved that rare feat in France of uniting the left and the right on one issue, and that is they both hate Macron.
It's either crazy brave or crazy stupid. No one's calling it crazy brave at this point. It didn't have to happen. You've now got the extreme left who are very anti-Semitic in France, rioting in the streets. It's a powder keg. You've got a high Muslim population in France. Look, we're going to see what will happen, what will be the consequence of all of this next weekend when the election sort of ends. But it's troubling to see because France is so important. It's so symbolic. And it really does seem like it's been cleaved down the middle at the moment.
French voters are voicing concerns over immigration, security, and preserving their cultural identity. These are issues that have been plaguing France for a long time.
There seems to be this tectonic plate shift happening with them, certainly with her party.
Why did he mention, that it was a large Muslim population of people in France?
Being ascendant, they got 19% just a couple of years ago, 33% of the vote in the last day. But then on the other side, you're seeing sort of the far left, the Muslim faction of the group kind of coalescing and coming together to try and unseat them. And I think that's what we're going to see. France is kind of a microcosm where they've got a significant Jewish population and a Muslim population, and all that is coming out.
So basically, like from what this lady just said, it's like the Muslims and the far left are aligning against the Jewish and the right, basically, is what she was saying. So it's like, I don't know. I guess you can read in between the lines on that. And, this report from Sky News is totally not balanced. It's totally biased. And it's like every other word is the left this and the left that, the left this and the left that. It's like, the problem is the left.
What this second round of the election is coming down to is a vision of the future. You have got Jean-Luc Mélenchon, who quite openly calls his a new France. That's what he wants, a new France of immigrants for the future, to build a good voting base. And that's why his party, La France Insoumise, has campaigned extensively on the conflict in Gaza. It rarely addresses domestic issues because, of course, Mélenchon and the French left, they long ago lost the French working class. They abandoned them for their progressive dogma. And so the French working class have moved practically en masse, certainly outside the big cities.
So talk about progressive dogma. They're talking about culture issues with that. And like I say, economic issues are the real thing, and the cultural issues is like secondary, and that's what they like to focus on to push those votes. But he said something else. Hold on. Hold on.
Abandoned them for their progressive dogma. And so the French working class have moved practically en masse, certainly outside the big cities, to Marine Le Pen. Her party very much addresses the cost of living crisis, which, along with immigration, is the big issue in France. And so you've got Marine Le Pen's party. It's probably the best way to describe that in crude terms is old France. So this is
Oh yeah, old France. And he was saying that the other guy wants a new France, like, full of immigrants and LGBTQs and all of this. And does that not sound familiar? Like the correlation of the politics in France and the politics in the States it's striking.
Country in the provinces that is proud of France, its traditions, its culture, its customs, and it wants to defend them. Now, it's not opposed to immigration per se, but it wants it controlled. Immigration, legal and illegal, has reached unprecedented levels under Emmanuel Macron. No one knows how many illegal immigrants there are exactly in France. It's estimates around about 1 million. And the Macron, since he was elected in 2000.
So they want to preserve the old French. They want to preserve their cultural identity and practices or whatever. And if you want to read between the lines in that has a racial component to it. And there's also a religious component to it. It's, European, white, Christian, Jewish.
17 has promised to control borders. He gave a speech at Sorbonne University in September 2017 about a speech about Europe. He's very much pro-Europe, but said we have got to control our borders. He was speaking obviously after the great migrant crisis of 2015, 2016, but he has done nothing about it. And insecurity has risen at the same time. There's been several appalling murders in recent years, some of them committed by people who were in France illegally. And
do y'all not see these connections? So it's like borders is important. I'm not saying that they aren't, but do you not see the same playbook being used where it's like these immigrants, they're coming, they committing murders or whatever, and you making this the most important issue that's facing the people. Meanwhile, the economics of the people is the real issue that people are having. But then when people talk about economics, then they say, well, it's the immigrants, because if it wasn't for the immigrants, then we would be able to take care of our people or whatever. But it's all a scapegoat. It's all a plan. It's all a way to keep from doing the right thing and taking care of the people, and they just keep kicking the ball down the road, keep kicking the can down the road to keep from doing what they should be doing, advocating for their constituents, and taking care of them, economically. So no, we can't do that. It's because of the immigrants. It's because of the border and And they just keep on saying this over and over. There are always gonna be people. There's always gonna be immigrants. It's always gonna be that. People are migration. People move around back and forth. It's always gonna be that, and they know that, so they can use that forever to keep from doing the stuff that they should be doing. Both sides do this. So it's just a way to screw the people is what it ultimately comes down to. It's the same playbook, scapegoating immigrants. We want to preserve our identity and our culture or whatever. and selling that to the people as the most important thing, when you have all of these other issues that you could be focusing on, but you're not focusing on those things because you're distracted with the cultural issues, LGBTQ, the border, so forth and so on. I'm gonna play a little bit more of this and I'm gonna move on.
This again has fueled support for Marine Le Pen. Now, one of her policies is that we will restore order to the borders, and they will send police to the Italian border where most of the migrants come up.
Does that not sound familiar? We're going to restore order to the border. We're going to send police to the border.
Really stop.
This kind of talk motivates a certain segment of the society, a specific segment.
The illegal migration. They will also look at the treaties between France and Algeria, which makes it very easy for Algerians to come and settle in France. And this wins support, not just incidentally among the right, but opinion polls have repeatedly shown that a majority of socialist and green voters, around about 52, 53%, also believe that immigration is out of control and they want something done about it. So this is a very popular policy.
If you play news stories every day of an immigrant committing some kind of crime or whatever, then you play that over and over again, then the people are going to come to the conclusion that, hey, these immigrants are a problem. The border is a problem. That's how you manufacture consent. Citizens commit crimes all the time, but the stories that you see being played on your TV are the crimes that's committed by the immigrants, who tend to be actually happening way fewer than citizens creating those, committing those exact same crimes. And people will be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about or whatever. Like, that's not true. I can't, they won't believe it. And I sympathize with them because I understand why they think that it's true, because every news story after news story after news story after news story is saying the same thing. It's not covering the crime committed by the citizens. They're not covering that because it doesn't go with their agenda. It doesn't follow the narrative. Pull up the statistics. Pull it up. Type it in your search bar. You don't have to take my word for it.
And Macron has always consistently refused to address it, consistently refused to have a referendum on the issue. France once had a tradition of referendums. It was very much part of Charles de Gaulle, part of the Fifth Republic Constitution. And I think between about 1958 and 2005, there were about 9 or 10 referendums. There hasn't been one since 2005. Why not? Because the one in 2005 was about France's relationship with the EU. And it was a ratification of the EU constitution. The establishment was in favor of it. The people voted no. And ever since then, the constitution, by the way, was ratified anyway. The parliament ignored the people. Another reason why Marine Le Pen is scoring so well now. And since then, the lesson learned from the French ruling elite: never trust the people, never listen to the people. They don't know what they're talking about. The people, on the other hand, say that the political elite don't know what they're talking about.
Yep. Same story. So the title was France Erupts. Left threatened democracy amid Marine Le Pen's election victory. The caption says, mayhem and unrest takes place across France after results of the first round of voting in the French election. As France heads back to the polls in the coming days, shops are being boarded up and parts of the population are concerned at what chaos could ensue. Following the first round of voting, rioters took to the streets after Marine Le Pen's National Rally Party secured a large victory. These are the same people who raged against Donald Trump and his supporters when they stormed the Capitol, quite rightly, and yet they see nothing wrong now. The Spectator author Gavin Mortimer told Sky News and Digital Originals. This is the immorality of a section of the left who are virtuous. They feel that they can do whatever they want if a vote doesn't go their way. So I don't know how you can use that in the same way in mentioning them storming the Capitol. So it's like they were storming the Capitol because they felt like, you know, they can do whatever they want if a vote doesn't go their way. So I don't know. He said, and he also said quite rightly, said these are the same people who raged against Donald Trump and his supporters when they stormed the Capitol, quite rightly. So they stormed the Capitol quite rightly, and the other people who are unhappy with the Democratic outcomes are immorality, virtuous, you know, do what they want if the vote doesn't go their way. So I don't know, you know, I mean, like, I think that you could say those words for both of those sides and be fair. So, but how can you choose one side and say that they are virtuous or whatever, or you can call one side, you know, quite rightly for storming the Capitol, and the other side is wrong for rioting or whatever. I mean, it's ultimately the same situation, right? So depending on which side you're on is the one that you're going to choose to justify. Comments. It says, nationalism is not racism. Take France back. Another one. So all the people that should be deported showed why they should be deported. Another one. Fascism grew from the left. Never forget that. Another comment says, the world says take France back. Another comment, make France French again. Another one, being against mass immigration is not racism, it's common sense. Another comment, I'm from Poland. I'm wholeheartedly in favor of France regaining its sovereignty, which it lost through illegal immigration. Go Le Pen. Another comment, the bottom line is these chumps know the free check and housing are no more. Another comment that says Macron will be remembered as a worm. Another comment, nationalism is not racism. Hold the line, France. Another one, being against too much immigration isn't racism. Another comment, France for French, England for English, Germany for Germans, America for Americans. Yeah. Americans. Whenever they say that, it's like Americans. What do they really mean by that? Who are the real true Americans? Another comment says, this is France's last chance. Another one, left, we stand for democracy unless we lose. Another comment, this should be a warning, the US and Canada, of what happens when you let immigration go out of control. It's not racist to decide who should be let in, who shouldn't, or who should be deported. A country should be putting its citizens first at all times. Another comment, take France back, immigrants who don't fit, get out. Another one, this is the world rejecting globalism. Another one, all the more reason to vote for Le Pen. Another one, F woke France, Le Pen needs to end the lunacy. Another one, there's rioting in the streets in France, quell, surprise. Couple more, says, it's all the Western countries, nationalism is not racism. Another one, it's not racism to want your country safe. Another one, the UK could learn from this. If they were even half like the French and actually stood up for something, the nation wouldn't have been such a dumpster fire. Another one, it says, WEF is the issue, the problem. Another one, Viva Le Pen, Viva La France. Another one, never back down to this idiotic, intolerant bullies, as you will be ruled by these bullies. Stand your ground, France, and get Macron out. Another one, if the right did this, they would all be in jail. Yes. Reoccurring themes. Let's go to this. It's the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Let's do this. How long is this?
Es ist doch echt traurig, dass erst der viel gescholtene ungarische Es ist doch echt traurig,
It's really sad that it took the much maligned
dass erst der viel gescholtene ungarische
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban
Premier
become
Viktor Orban EU-Ratspräsident werden.
EU Council President for once. The EU is doing something sensible to try to end the terrible war in Ukraine with peace talks and a ceasefire. Viktor Orban first went to Kyiv, campaigning for negotiations. Now he is going to Moscow and talking to Putin. You think that was overdue, but no, there's a huge outcry, for God's sake. This Orban, he's not allowed to. Mr. Scholz is upset. Has no mandate at all. What on earth? How else are we going to end this dying? With more, hold on. With more and more weapons, at some point with ground troops, and at the end, the whole Europe will be in ruins. They can't be serious. I think it's very sensible to campaign for talks now, and I think that Mr. Orban has really done something good. So yeah, it's funny that when people start talking, like trying to get to peace agreements, then you have people that are outraged about it. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe you're talking to the other side about like bringing the war to an end or whatever, you know. Diplomacy. How else will it ever come to an end, regardless of what happens? Like, oh, we're just going to fight forever, or we're just going to completely destroy the other side. Like, you're really going to completely destroy little old Ukraine. They're really going to completely destroy Russia. It says, finally, peace or endless dying. Scholz and the EU should take Orban as an example. After his visit to Kyiv, Hungarian President Viktor Orban is now advocating for negotiations in Moscow to end the war in Ukraine through a ceasefire and peace talks. However, instead of support, he faces an outcry. He can't do that, criticizes Mr. Scholz, emphasizing the EU's Council President Orban does not speak for the EU on his Moscow trip. Shouldn't the Chancellor, given his poll numbers, start to wonder who he is actually speaking for? I believe the Chancellor should support such initiatives instead of blocking them. It's high time to take the first steps towards peace, to finally end the dying. Tweet replies, it says, Orban has shown himself to be competent, pragmatic leader, hard to use as an example. You need people who have the talent, then you enhance that talent with mentoring and training. Doesn't happen overnight. Another one, Scholz lacks the ability to analyze and differentiate between good and bad. Unfortunately, he is acting as a U.S. stooge like Rishi Sunak and Macron. Their fate in an election should have given him a feel for the mind of the people Through his actions, he allowed Nord Stream to be destroyed, stuck the U.S. sanctions, depriving and flourishing German industry to shift, or slow down. Spent huge amount of taxpayers' money to fund and arm Ukraine. Does he think German people appreciate all of this? Time for him to wake up and smell the coffee. Again, man, if somebody trying to, negotiate peace and you want to attack them. Those people benefit from war. Economic people, the powers that be, if you will. So they don't care how many people die, It's the young and the poor who go to war. It says the president of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria are meeting in Niamey for the first summit of Alliance of the State of the Sahel, AES. What a rock star reception that was. This is big news right here. Because Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are creating, they're going to support each other, and protect each other. So it gives them strength. So it makes it more difficult for outside influences, to take over and separate the people and, control the resources of these areas. And they can also trade with each other and stuff like that. Like this is really big deal right here. I'm surprised I haven't seen more of this in the news.
Viennent de faire leur entrée dans ce somptueux centre international de conférence Mahamat Kadi de Niamey, sur les rives du fleuve Niger. Leur Excellence le général Abdourahmane Chani, le colonel Assimi Goïta, le capitaine Ibrahim Traoré. Bienvenue dans le centre international de conférence Mahatma Gandhi de Niamey.
Yeah, this is a big deal. I think I have a better explanation of this. Is it this one? It says, besides the economic integration, common currency, free movement of goods and services, the Sahel Alliance will be the strongest military force in Africa in the next 5 years. Puppets will be dealt with decisively. So yeah, Mali, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso, and they're sitting right there next to each other. So then this could be like a European Union or like a African Union or a NATO or whatever, like a small version of that. It's really a big deal right here. The powers that be do not want this. Future of Africa right here. If they can get more African countries on board with this is what what's his name? Gaddafi was trying to do. Tweet replies, it says Pan-African trade has begun. These will be the richest states in Africa very soon with the highest standards of living. Another one, they are welcome to take sellout states. What does that mean? It says together they have a population of 70 million people. That's a big country. Uranium, coal, gold, iron ore, tin, phosphates, petroleum, molybdenum, salt, gypsum, zinc, copper, manganese, phosphate, and limestone among themselves. Also huge, especially Burkina Faso in agriculture. Another tweet reply says, these guys are leading Africa in the decolonization space. They understand that divided we will always be exploited by the superpowers, but together we are stronger and can dictate the direction of our continent. Another one. I'm sorry, this won't last. Military rule always crumbles very badly. You're a bot. That's why you don't have no picture on your thing. Another comment, it says, they don't have a port, strongest military. How when they can easily be blockaded? Well, I mean, that is kind of a good point, but strong military, that means that they can't be invaded. You know, maybe they can be blockaded, but that's fine when all of those countries, they share a border with each other. So they could just move stuff back and forth between each other. They don't need they have everything that they need. Why would they need a port necessarily? It says, quick question. How does the new political bloc compare against the 7 cardinal pillars of the EFF? What's the attitude towards capitalism? I see a lot of anti-French coups up north, but ideology, I don't see much. Being anti-West is one thing, but what do they stand for? Well, obviously they stand for taking care of themselves, and shedding their colonial overlords, boom. I mean, and looking out for their own people. The guy in Burkina Faso has been doing a lot of stuff for production. What do you call it when you manufacture your own stuff? Like, they have resources, but it was other folks who own the plants to do the what do you call it? Like when you refine it, when you manufacture it, when you extract it, like, so he was like, get them up out of there and we'll build our own equipment to do that stuff. As big as the United States is, that's the thing that we should be focusing on, is manufacturing our own stuff. Another comment says they are landlocked. They need to bring into Togo. Where's that map at? Okay, Togo right here. Yep, any of them. Ghana, Nigeria. Can you see this bigger? Cote d'Ivoire. I don't know that country like at all. But wait a minute. There's a coast. Okay, yeah, that's the little bottom lip right there. Africa right there. So wait a minute. I need to see. Let's look at the map. Let's look at Google Maps. All right, is that what I'm trying to see? No, I'm trying to think of Google Earth. It's loading. I want to see Mali, Burkina Faso. Let's do Mali. Let's share this. Okay, you got Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso. Let's back this up. Okay, that's what they were talking about right there. Can we move this? Mali, Burkina Faso. and Niger right there. So yes, they are totally landlocked. You got Nigeria, which is totally ran by outside folks. So they will be one of the last countries to get on board with something like this. You got Benin, Togo, Ghana. I don't know why Ghana wouldn't be interested in getting involved in this. This is that country with the name. I don't even know who they are. Mali goes all the way over here. So they could use Guinea. What is this? Senegal. They could use any of them. This country that I don't know. Ghana, Togo, Benin. Nigeria is not going to get on board. So yeah, they do need a coast. It would help a lot. Benin, they could just go right through there. Togo, they could go right through there. Ghana, they could go right through there. I don't know this country, but they could go through there. Guinea, they could go through there. Senegal, they could go right through there. So yeah, they should push. Well, maybe what it'll do is set an example for the rest of the country. So, you know, the rest of the continent to other countries. So if these, if they start seeing like prosperous future and outcomes as a result of this alliance, there's going to automatically be pressure because the people are smart and they pay attention to stuff. So the people within these countries are going to be watching and they're going to see things happen and they're going to be like, you know what? We're going to pressure our government to join this group and give them a port. This is a big deal. Do I have some more on this? Like a video that explains what's happening. Let me see. I think I do somewhere. Just don't remember where it is. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find this. Must have been on Instagram. I might have to search it up. Hold on. Let me see if I have it shared on Instagram. If not, then I'm going to look it up. See it. Let's look it up. One man show here. Al Jazeera, 1 hour ago. Let's do Al Jazeera.
It's been a tumultuous year for West Africa's regional bloc, ECOWAS. A number of coups have set off several crises, leading to suspensions and sanctions. Those actions resulted in 3 member states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, renouncing their membership and forming their own bloc, the Alliance of Sahel States. Although most of ECOWAS punitive sanctions have been lifted, many believe the crisis has undermined and weakened the organization. Nigeria, which holds the chairmanship, says much has been achieved in the past year.
The handling of the fragile situations in these countries has, even though perhaps not ideally what we would want, but it has helped to de-escalate tension, because at a point tension was really high and things could have gone south.
At the heart of the organization's troubles are security and the economy. Economic slowdown has resulted in high cost of living, leading to violent protests in some member states. Attacks by armed groups are also a major concern. One of the main reasons coup leadership in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger gave for toppling their democratic governments. Ahead of Sunday's ECOWAS summit in Nigeria, the leaders of the newly formed Alliance of Sahel States met in Niger's capital, Niamey. They discussed security and defense, combating terrorism, economic, cultural, and trade exchanges. Analysts warn the alliance will need support from the rest of the region.
If they decide to operate on their own by isolating other ECOWAS countries or other countries within the Sahel, these groups will continue to exploit these gaps that would be created, and then of course continue to impact heavy toll on both the security forces as well as the citizens of the 3 countries.
ECOWAS has initiated moves led by the Senegalese president to bring the 3 countries back into its fold. So far, there are no indications this has succeeded.
Observers say the timing of the Alliance of Sahel States was deliberate. It's to show ECOWAS that Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger can do without the regional bloc. But some analysts say Mali and Niger in particular could face difficulties if all member countries of ECOWAS decide to isolate the 2 landlocked countries.
As leaders of the Sahel Alliance wrap up their meeting in Niger, ECOWAS members gathering in Nigeria have not commented on the Niamey meeting, likely hoping their latest efforts will convince the junta-led countries to return to the regional organization. Ahmed Idris, Al Jazeera, Abuja, Nigeria.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
It's hard to really understand this whole thing with these short little clips, because you had the coups that happened in each one of those countries. And France was trying to take it back and couldn't. And there was attempted coup that happened again in Burkina Faso that they stopped. You know, outside forces are really trying to keep this from happening, you know. And so those 3 countries that have had coups recently and taken over their own countries and you know, cut ties to their like, it's like a lot of these countries are post-colonial already, but post-colonial is in quotes, because a lot of the countries are still ran by their mother countries, if you will, in other ways. You know, the economics is crazy. And it's like all of the stuff that's worth anything ends up going to those mother countries, even though it's a post-colonial nation, which is where a lot of the confusion comes in, and which makes it hard to understand. But then these people like, you know what? That's it. It's a wrap. We're not doing this no more. We're not even doing this post-colonial thing. It's over. It's a wrap. Y'all have gotten enough from us. So we're out of there. So, and that's what these 3 countries did. So, but it left them in a vulnerable position where, you know, they're going to continue to be trying to retake those countries, you know. So then they feel like they could protect themselves a lot better if they create like a new alliance, one that isn't headed by Western countries or influenced by Western countries or whatever, because previous alliances aren't for the African people per se. They are for the benefit of Western countries.
States have
A red carpet welcome for the Burkinabe leader as he joins his counterparts from Mali and Niger for a joint summit. It's the first time the three junta leaders are convening talks as an alliance of Sahel states, a new regional bloc aimed at reconciling a divided West Africa. On the agenda, the fight against terrorism and finding ways to boost cooperation.
This is the first and historic summit of the Alliance of Sahel States. Today, we are very proud to see an African summit, a summit where states have decided to pool their energy, to pool their forces, to create an alliance for development without any foreign stakeholders, without any counterparts from powers that are used to ruling over us.
Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger set up the Mutual Defense Pact in September, announcing plans for joint anti-jihadist efforts in early March. It aims to create a single military command for the nation's troops combating terrorism, and on the sidelines, also seeks to launch a common currency. The three nations have been facing deadly jihadist violence for years, namely by groups linked to the Islamic State, who've killed thousands of civilians and soldiers and displaced millions. The new alliance was formed after the trio left the wider bloc ECOWAS in January, alleging it was manipulated by former colonial ruler France, who they say didn't provide enough anti-jihadist support. Niger's ruling general says the junta-led countries have turned their backs on ECOWAS and have since pivoted towards Russia, Turkey, and Iran. ECOWAS will nonetheless hold talks with the leaders of the new alliance in Nigeria on Sunday to discuss relations with the bloc.
So it's like another example of this bipolar world that we're moving into, where the West's dominance is diminished and countries have another choice to go with. You have the rise of BRICS, and, when they put all of those sanctions on Russia, it led Russia to go at things in a different way, and that's what led to these alliances that happened that grew BRICS so much. And the power of those BRICS countries are leading other countries to align, with this other pole. What I'm talking about is power, the global powers, and so these countries have other choices now. Well, they have one other choice, and that's what they're going with instead of being exploited by the West. Now, an argument can be made for being exploited by a new, master, if you will. It's like the old boss, same as the new boss type of deal. But given that these countries know the history, they're really smart. They know the ploys or the tactics of these post-colonialists to exploit the resources of their country. So they're going to be very, very sensitive to anything that looks like that. So they're going to try their best to keep from being exploited in that way. And the thing with the IMF and the World Bank and all of that, these countries are getting wise to those tactics, so they're not, most likely, a lot of them aren't going to allow it to happen. So what would happen, the way that they would do it is by getting someone in charge that is friendly to the Western powers, and that's what they would try to do. They would do like a coup or whatever and put a puppet government in there. That's their playbook, and get somebody who's willing to play ball with them. So, but these guys are really sensitive to that. And that's the reason why these countries are still ran by these military leaders, which is one of the problems that the people have. Now, what's his name? The Burkina Faso guy. I'm not sure about the other ones, but he got officially elected I want to say now. So it's not like he's, the cool military leader that becomes the leader and is running the country through military force or whatever. So for you to have legitimacy, you'd have to have elections and be elected by the people and have support from the people, which I think this guy in Burkina Faso specifically has at this time. So, like I say, they would have to put another leader in place to be able to get control of the country and their resources, which is the playbook that they do throughout Africa, not just Africa, around the world. Let me see. I'm going to randomly go through some of this stuff because I don't remember. I've forgotten what I wanted to cover, but I know it's in here, so we're just going to go with this. Let's do this. I briefly mentioned this earlier about Orban trying to negotiate a peace treaty between Russia and Ukraine. So that's what this photo op right here says. President Putin meets with Hungary Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Russia. This is the first visit by a European leader to Russia in over 2 years. Orban's visit comes just days after he made an announcement trip to Kyiv for a meeting with the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky. Orban has said he wants to use Hungary's current president of the EU Council to advocate for an end to the fighting in Ukraine. At the meeting in Moscow, Putin told Orban he was ready to discuss the nuances of peace proposals to end the conflict in Ukraine. He said he was ready to hear Orban's proposal on Ukraine and to get a readout from him on the views of European partners. European leaders have come down hard on Orban for his visit. The EU's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, said Orban's visit to Moscow takes place exclusively in the framework of the bilateral relations between Hungary and Russia. Orban has been seen as Putin's closest partner in the European Union. He has routinely blocked, delayed, or watered down EU efforts to assist Kyiv and impose sanctions on Moscow for its actions in Ukraine. So, yeah, the rest of the boys on the block are like, no. So I don't know how successful he could be in this without, without help from the European Union or the US to facilitate peace talks in Ukraine when you've got so many folks who are pushing for this to continue, But diplomacy is the only way that this is going to come to the end. If nobody is willing to talk to both sides and try to figure out what we could do to move forward, then it's going to just continue to be the same as it is. More people dying and the war going on. I think that the United States is looking to sacrifice Ukraine, be another Afghanistan, an endless war. I'm going to jump around because I don't remember what I wanted to cover right now. My mind is going blank. Let's do this one. It says, mind-blowing 15 million foreigners visit China in the first 6 months of this year. Tourism is booming thanks to Beijing's new visa-free travel for many countries. As some young people are even speaking fluent Chinese, imagine the career opportunities for these kids in the future. China is going at this in a really smart way, visa-free travel. There's been a lot of, propaganda about China. And so if you let the people just come over there and see for themselves, then the propaganda is not going to work on them.
大家好，今天我们非常非常高兴能来到故宫，你们看一看。
故宫太大了，
对，太
这
大了。
是一个非常难得的机会，所以我们非常感谢。
对，我们很高兴能来到这边。如果你们有一些其他来北京的应该去的地方，可以给我们留一下评论呢。谢谢大家，再见，大家。
Man, I wish I could speak that, but Cantonese or what is it? Mandarin? We talked about that. Robert Wright says the argument against regulation is always the same. It stifles growth and jobs. But just as tax cuts for corporations have no trickle down, regulatory cuts have not benefited most people. Big companies enjoy bigger profits, working people bear the costs. So there's a cartoon, brief history of self-regulation. Financial sector. It's talking about the housing crash in 2008. And then it says airline industries, like all the stuff with Boeing. Boeing is really going through it right now. Heavy industry. Cuyahoga River, Cleveland. The river was on fire. I don't know that story. Chemical companies. I don't know what they're talking about in that one either. More on Russia. Putin, Kyiv regime won't negotiate peace because they'll lose the pretext for martial law, and if they held elections, they will lose. Is this going to be translated? Nope. It says, in my opinion, the Kyiv regime does not allow the idea of ceasing hostilities because there will be no pretext for extending martial law. These are Putin's words I'm reading. It says they do not want to cease hostilities because in this case, the state of military law must be lifted. Why wouldn't they want military law to be lifted? It says if martial law is lifted, then elections must be held. Putin goes on. Is that it? It says, but the chances of winning them for Ukrainian rulers who have locked their ratings and legitimacy are close to zero. So he's saying that the Ukrainian leaders would not be able to hold on to power if they were to have elections. So that's really interesting because it makes me think about Israel and Netanyahu. Yeah, so a lot of them are saying that Netanyahu is keeping the war going so that he can continue to hold on to power. And Netanyahu is saying that he's making, the worst part of the fighting against Hamas is drawing down, but he's keeping it going by Hezbollah and ramping up military actions with them. This one, it says millions of dollars of American taxpayer money lies burned in a field in Ukraine. Hundreds of billions spent, hundreds of thousands dead. It was the same in Vietnam, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Korea, and South America. The same story and the same end coming. Oh, I can't play that. So, yeah. All of these military vehicles just sitting there. Looks like they've been gutted already and destroyed. Probably come through and take everything that's worth anything and just leave the rest. All of that money sent over there to Ukraine, that's it right there, sitting. All the military assistance, all of that, it's just sitting here in the middle of nowhere, not being used, destroyed. This one, it said Nigerians came out in their thousands and tens of thousands to welcome Captain Traore. The level of euphoria amongst the population towards Captain Traore is unlike anything I have seen in the continent. This is Pan-Africanism. This bond of affinity is infectious. I have no idea really what they're talking about here. I'm not familiar. I'm gonna move on because I don't know about that situation. This one, it says, the propaganda we all absorb in America is poison and nonsense. If you were to only listen to the media and politicians, you'd think the Chinese live in a dystopia, a dictatorship with social credit scores and oppressive government, and where one can't speak or think for themselves. All I see is fit, healthy people living in a future as we in America live like cavemen, regressing among crumbling infrastructure, high crime, and high costs and taxes. In fact, the first part of this actually describes the U.S. more accurately, to be honest. Of course, the claims will be that's just the city, not most of China is awful. More lies and nonsense. The truth is that much of the world is in fact living better than us, but when the people are ignorant of the outside world, they never see or know it. We have mocked Russia and mocked the Chinese, but it's us who are the fools. Whatever so-called awful conditions China has, I think we need it here in America, because if this is the Chinese living bad, then what the hell are we living in America? At what point in our arrogance did we think we having nothing to learn from a people who have existed for over 3,000 years?
Chongqing, one of the largest cities in the world, the most populous metropolis in the world, resident population of up to 32 million, the urbanization rate in the city has reached 70%. The urbanization rate in 7 regions has exceeded 90%. Welcome to the most exciting city on earth, located in the central area of southwestern China. The Yangtze River and Jiaoling River flow by, also known as the bridge capital of China. This city is also a commercial and industrial center, known as the 8D Magic City. Welcome to the mountain city of Chongqing.
I hope that music doesn't give me a ding.
Oh my God, look at this. So this is just kind of a walkway to get to the station. Look at this screen. It's crazy. Meanwhile, in America, oh my God, look at this. So
yeah, I know. This will make a lot of people angry right here. I mean, you know, each country has its positives and its negatives or whatever, you know. But when we look, when we talk about other countries, being that we're Americans, we tend to not talk about the good things of those other countries because we want to feel like America's the greatest country in the world or whatever. So anything that goes against that, then we're going to reject. it's that cognitive dissonance or whatever. Like, I'm sure China has its issues, just like the United States has its issues. You have to face reality about things. And how come we can't look at other countries and see how they do certain things and implement some of those things in our country? Like it's a crazy thing to think about, like, no, we can't do that because this is America or whatever. And it's like, that is crazy talk. Like, whatever the other countries do well, how come we can't implement those things? You don't have to do them exactly the same way that they do them, but you can implement those things. I mean, not just China, Russia, Iran, I don't know, you name it, the country, you name it, and look at what they do well and copy those things. Like, why does it have to be a competition? Meanwhile, the people are the ones who suffer because they selling you on some cultural identities or this nationalism or whatever it is to keep you divided and keep you distracted and keep you talking about, like, it's the border is the problem, the LGBTQ is the problem, it's the left is the problem, it's the right is the problem, it's President Biden is the problem, Trump is the problem. And meanwhile, the same results end up being the same: crumbling infrastructure, economic hardships, living check to check, low paid workers. Meanwhile, the rich stay rich. The rich folks are probably taking trips to China and enjoying this shit. Meanwhile, you're all like, oh, China, China. We're the ones that's confined to the United States. We can't move around because we got to go to work every day. And we're worried about the rent or the mortgage, that car note. This one, it says, this is why they hate Putin. Russia bans transgender people from being able to adopt children. Interesting. I think a lot of people over here in the States would agree with this. Comments, it says, they hate Putin because he does everything right. Another one, it says, if they choose not to reproduce, that's their problem. Children should be raised with the present mother and father. Another one, it says, we need this so bad in the U.S. Another one, this is an honorable man. Another one, and this is why we love Putin. Another comment, stop publishing this crap. When we said we wanted the Epstein files released, this is not what we meant. Trump's alleged sexual proclivities. Another one, good job, Russia. Another one, why should it have a child? Well done. Another one, children should be taught that being a gay and lesbian is incorrect and disgusting. I'm so lucky my parents taught me that. I tell you, if you lazy to teach your children, you probably don't deserve to have children. Wow, you could have did your grammar. Your grammar was pretty lazy right there. Another comment. This is one of the best regulations Putin has made. Another one. He is the only person doing the work of God. Another one. Now we hate him because he is a criminal. He killed civilians in Syria and Chechnya and support all Arab criminals like Assad and Haftar in Libya. Now, there is some untruths there. And Syria, he was freaking protecting Syria. They was destroying Syria. Russian air support is what allowed Syria to make it. I don't know what they're talking about with Chechnya, but he says support all Arab criminals like Assad. So like there's so much confusion with that. Like all Arab criminals, that's already a problem. Assad isn't that not you're talking about Israeli? And then it's the same thing where earlier we was covering the African countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and they were saying that they wasn't getting enough protection from the Muslim terrorists or whatever. And you have to ask yourself, who is funding these Muslim terrorists? I have a clip in here. I'm probably going to go ahead and go to that right now. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get to the meat of the matter. But freaking, why hasn't ISIS attacked Israel? The Muslim terrorists terrorizing Palestinians, but not Israelis. That doesn't make any sense at all, like none whatsoever. So that means something isn't right. Something is off. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. There's that. I might do that. Yeah, we're going to do that one too. Hold on, y'all. Yeah, we're going to do that too. Go ahead and get into it, the uncomfortable part of the show. Oh, this is it right here. Is this the one I was thinking of? It says ISIS attacking Palestine, but not Israel. Do the math. ISIS kills Palestinian fighters in Syrian desert. Like, it would make a lot of sense for ISIS fighters to terrorize Israelis. You know, they're terrorizing all of these other countries, but somehow they skip over Israel. That makes no sense whatsoever. Comments. It says, because ISIS and Israel are the same thing. Another comment says, because it's the most depraved society on the planet, Israel represents the worst of humanity, the malignant marriage of perpetual victimhood with systemic hate and uncontrolled violence. Stanley Cohen, American attorney and political activist. It said, another comment that says, because ISIS is a proxy of apartheid Israel. Another comment that says, ISIS equals Mossad. It says, the Jewish Skotloff with his Muslim jihad homeboys. Notice the rifle lower right. Another one that says, they apologized to Israel when they did attack it that one time by accident. Another comment that says, last 15 years, everybody said this militant group was Muslim, but I said this was American and Israel group. Another one that says, ISIS is Israel project, no question about it. Another one, Israel Secret Intelligence Service, ISIS. Another one, America also responsible, shame on you. It's got a cartoon here. It says, stop the war in Ukraine, boycott Russia. And then it has like Uncle Sam figure saying freedom, freedom. Then the other side, it says, stop the war in Gaza, boycott Israel. And then it has an Uncle Sam figure saying anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic. Oh, snap. I gotta be careful. We are on Twitter. Let me see. Let's do this one.
Israeli political and military officials make no secret of their vision of what comes next. In September, Benjamin Netanyahu displayed a map of what he called the new Middle East. Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem had all been incorporated into a greater Israel. Palestine had ceased to exist. The Palestinians are being forced to choose between death or being driven from their homeland. There will soon reach a point where death will be so ubiquitous that deportation for those who want to live will be the only option. Israeli leaders are calling this deportation voluntary migration. Voluntary migration is not a new concept in the annals of genocide. In the Warsaw Ghetto, the Nazis handed out 3 kilograms of bread and 1 kilogram of marmalade to anyone who voluntarily registered for deportation. The Nazis shipped their victims to death camps. The Israelis will ship their victims to squalid refugee camps in countries outside of Israel. No one, especially the Biden administration, intends to stop it.
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say here. So I'm going to let other people say what they want to say. There's a clip. Hold on. Let's do some of this.
You're taking me out of context. I wasn't like, here's an episode where I think that Jews are conspiring to control Hollywood. And again, like I said, if the feedback from these individuals during the time of BLM was, Candace, you can't talk about Black people conspiring to commit crimes and gangs that are rising up because of BLM, because slavery existed and this isn't a racism, then I'd say, okay, fine, fair bait. But it feels exceptional to me that the same people who applauded me for this exact same rhetoric, and I'm going to give you an example here, David Horowitz, David Horowitz of the Horowitz Freedom Center, he's a despicable human being. How dare you give me a literal award? An award and say you are so brave for tackling BLM and talking about all of the ills of Black Lives Matter and talking about how we're using this one issue and they're destroying communities and they're doing all of that. And then when I say, oh, wow, look at this issue going on post October 7th, you suddenly go, no, you're an anti-Semite of the week and you deserve to have your entire life destroyed. I don't accept Jewish supremacy. And that's what it sounds like to me when you have individuals who didn't care when I said the exact same thing, who still don't care, as I still cover Black American issues like Sexy Red and Cardi B and talk about how their fame is completely fake and that there's some system that allows this fame to float to the top. And yet you're so sensitive if it has to do with a Jewish person. Also, white people. The people that get the most coverage on my show are white people. I'm constantly pointing to what's happening in their TikTok trends and what they're doing, and they're not offended. So it actually, to me, is like snowflake culture that's gone writ large in the Jewish community, and they're just calling everything anti-Semitism like Black Americans called everything racism in 2020. And I'm consistent. I find it boring, and I'm not going to be like persuaded against to talking about these topics because there's a Jewish sensitivity.
Big balls. The big balls of Candace Owens. Yeah, you can't talk like that and keep your job. She said it's snowflake culture. They calling everything anti-Semitic. Hold on. I do want to go back to Ukraine a little bit, but yeah, see, they're talking about, they said, let's read this. It says the British Telegraph now openly admitted after new elections that Israel had won the UK. Goodbye, Galloway. This was a triumph for Israel, the media reported. Galloway is the only politician in Britain who opposes Israel genocide of children in Gaza and lost his seat in parliament at this election. The Telegraph has knowingly or unknowingly admitted that Britain is now under the control of Israel. So goodbye to Galloway. This was a triumph for Israel. Britain has breathed a sigh of relief. I don't think that their intention was what it sounds like. Like they are so like caught in trying to get their narrative out that they don't even realize how their words are going to be perceived. Hold on. There was another one, but I think it's under Instagram. I'm gonna look for that. I'm gonna just float around because it's gonna keep coming back around to the same stuff. I kind of want to get these ones that I put in here, and it's gonna keep coming back around. Let's do this one because we're jumping around a bit, but it's tough for me to stay on topic when I have the clips all over the place, and it takes me too long to find them. So we're just going to kind of jump back and forth between the couple of topics that I've been covering. So this one, it says World Bank upgrades Russia to high income nation, estimates its gross income per capita as $14,250 annually. This comes just 2 years after the West imposed sanctions. Additionally, Russia now has the largest GDP in terms of purchasing power and parity in Europe. So yeah, the West put all of those sanctions on Russia, and it hasn't had the intended effects. And a lot of the effects of those sanctions has hurt European nations like Germany. So yeah, that's what happened. Maybe they who knows what their intentions was. A lot of times, like I be saying, I can't say that they didn't know what was going to happen. So I think we were talking about BRICS and talking about Burkina Faso and Mali and the two poles. I think that the European Union, you had Brexit already happen. As a result of these actions, the ones that were aimed at Russia, I think it's going to lead to European countries to split. And I would not be surprised if you get one of these European countries to do something like leave the EU and join BRICS. Because at some point, they're going to have to look out for their people. Their people are going to be like, bro, this is not working out for us. You know? They're going to be under pressure. This one, it says, just in, Iran and Russia finalized integration of national payment systems, officially ditching the US dollar for trade. Boom. We're in a multipolar world now. Let's look at this one. It says, the West imposes tariffs on Chinese cars because it can no longer compete. I've been seeing a lot of videos on those cars. The cars are cheaper too, so they're more luxury and cheaper. So a lot of the stuff when you talk about China, it's about
小易，关闭全车遮阳帘。好的，正在关闭遮阳帘。
it's about
打开中排幕布。打
economic
开零重力
competition.
座椅。
It's about economic competition, and they don't want to compete, because they can't compete. I think that's part of the thing with that happened with TikTok. Look at that shit. Big ass screen came down. Freaking yeah. So they don't want to compete with China. That's what's happening, and that's what's happening with Taiwan and the chips and all of this. And you think that it's something else. They'll say that it's something else, but it's really economics. It's about the American companies, prosperity and protecting them. Let's read this one. It says, Israel has never existed. Ooh. It says the president of Uganda kept calling Israel Palestine during Netanyahu's visit. Ooh, talk about disrespectful. Disrespectful. Put some respect on my name. It says Benjamin Netanyahu visited Uganda to try and mend ties with the East African nation 40 years after the Entebbe raid. But Uganda's longtime leader threw a verbal wrench in the works. Wow. Talk about disrespectful. Man, this guy better freaking, what do they say? Protect this guy. Be careful. Let's read some tweet replies. It says, only the West and the Arab traders call it Israel. Another one says, he's 100% correct. The land is Palestine. There's no Israel. It is a fabrication of the worst sort to say that there is. This one, it says, Israeli aggression toward Palestinian Lebanon shows the criminal nature of the Zionist project. They say a river to the sea to mean Mediterranean to Euphrates. That's why they are committing genocide and settling. They want living space, no regard for human life. I don't know if I can even play this. Let's listen to a little bit.
Israel has responded to the October 7th attack. What has been happening since then is not a response, and it's not even, I would say, revenge. What has been happening since October 7th is a deliberate attempt to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip. And it's not just because the Israelis are hateful, although I think they are. It's very calculated. They're killing civilians. They're destroying infrastructure because they want the people to leave. It's an ethnic cleansing. That means they want the people to leave the territory. They're bombing the infrastructure. They're killing the people. They're moving the people around. And they're creating a humanitarian nightmare so that the people say, just get us out of here. Where will they go? Probably the United States, Europe, Egypt, maybe some other surrounding countries. But that's the plan. Move them around, destroy all their buildings, all their infrastructure, so there's nowhere for them to go back to, terrorize them, so sufficiently demoralize them that by the end of it, they say, you know what, uncle, we just want to leave. We don't even want river to the sea. We don't even want the sea bordering Gaza Strip that we have now. We just want out of here. They move out. Israel moves in, they take the land. This is what they wanted from the beginning. And when I say from the beginning, yes, the beginning of October 7th, but I'm talking about even the beginning of the entire Zionist project. They want all of it. When the Israelis say the river to the sea, they mean the Mediterranean to the Euphrates. They don't mean the Mediterranean to the Jordan. This is what they've wanted from the very beginning. It's an expansionist project. They want living space. This is why they're settling everywhere. They're settling Gaza. They're settling the West Bank. They've taken the Golan. That is the play. And after October 7th, they made it very clear that that was their intention. They said, we are going to fundamentally transform the balance of power for 50 years. They said, we're going to change it for a lifetime. You don't change the balance of power by inflicting some casualties on the most minor proxy that Iran supports. You do it by annexing Gaza. That would be living up to those lofty promises. The same thing is happening in Lebanon. They don't just want Hezbollah to move north of the river. That is a completely unreasonable demand that they know Hezbollah will never agree to. They're sabotaging attempts to even get them to agree to it. Right now, the United States is in France, negotiating with France and talking about a proposal that they can jointly submit to Lebanon to get Hezbollah to meet Israel's demands. They're doing that because at one time, Lebanon was a protectorate of France. So there's some influence there. So Israel's demanding Hezbollah move north of the Litani River. Hezbollah says no. Israel says that's the only way we can feel secure enough to resettle the evacuated residents that are on that border with Lebanon. The United States and France are working together. They've been working together for months to convince Lebanon to get Hezbollah to accede to these demands to avoid an all-out war. But everybody knows Hezbollah will not agree to it, and so does Israel. The same day that the United States diplomat is in France working on this deal, what does Israel do? they killed the top Hezbollah general, the most senior Hezbollah general that they've killed in their low intensity conflict with Hezbollah since October 7th.
And Iran is not going to go for an all-out war with Lebanon. And Iran is the big boy of the region. And I don't know what Israel, what their long-term plans are. They really think that they're going to be able to get away with this. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Iran is way, way, way outclassing militarily, equipment, training, everything. They can't handle Iran. So, but then you got United States. So I guess they feel like if the United States, goes in with goes in with Israel versus Iran, then they'll have a chance to win. But then you're going to have other countries are going to get involved. And this is going to turn into a literal World War III if you have a all-out hot war between Iran and Israel. And if the United States gets in, because if the United States doesn't get in, then it's going to be over quickly. Iran's just going to be like, and Israel will be literally no more. So, I don't see the United States letting that happen, but then things are going to get really, really ugly, really, really quickly. Those are nuclear powers.
Ow, my soap. Ow. Don't sit there. Why? Just my soap. I'm not accept for your country people here. No. I don't welcome.
Whoa, you're kicking out my wife and kids?
We by that time. We just welcome the human, animal, even dog and cat only.
Anything else? Anything else you want to say?
Welcome human and dog and cat only.
Anything else you want to say?
No.
Am I considered a human for being Jewish? Am I considered a human?
Go.
You go.
What?
What do you say?
He told me that Israel's sending bombs. Careful your kids, because Israel's going to send a bomb.
Oh, should we run away now?
You should keep walking.
Because bombs are coming.
Yeah. Be carefully, the baby here not safe. The bomb not automatic, no fly the baby. Where you come from?
Palestine.
Are you Palestine?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Welcome. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine? Where?
Yeah. Around the world. Yeah.
Is this your son? Is this your mother?
I don't care. Who are you?
You don't care.
I don't care about you. Crazy.
This business over here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm making picture. No one come to your shop. And whoever comes to Vietnam, never, ever step foot into this shop. We're in 2024. I'm not moving because I'm Jewish. I'm proud of I'm Jewish, and nothing is going to stop me.
Out your head. Ow, my soul.
Yeah, so all Jewish people aren't bad. I would say that. This group is, this was a clip of, these people wasn't allowing these people to stay because they were Jewish or whatever. You can't correlate Zionism with Jewish. So I'll say that. Check this out. It says Britain's new leader, Keir Starmer, is married to a Jewish woman. Kamala Harris is married to a Jewish man. Biden's son is married to a Jewish woman. Donald Trump's daughter is married to a Jewish man. Hillary Clinton's daughter is married to a Jewish man. Just how many Jews are there in the world? I don't believe when they say it's 15 million since the 1950s. It says the new Jewish First Lady in UK brings Jewish Shabbat to 10 Downing Street. I always have to wonder about the ones who have joint citizenship, the ones who are, they have Israeli citizenship and United States citizenship, and then they're in like United States government or proxy to United States government. And I have to wonder, where do their who do they align with? That is a question I have. Is it okay for someone to have citizenship in another country and then be either directly involved in the government, or proximity to the government, or influencing the government, or in leadership positions of the government? And would people accept it if it was another country other than Israel? Where are they? Who do they align with? Are they putting America first? Or I think it's fair to question, their intentions or motivations or their alliances when they have joint citizenship and they are in political positions or in positions of power. I think that's a fair question to ask. And just having those questions or those doubts should be enough to not allow them to be in those positions. Because no matter what, people are going to ask, who are they for? Are they really looking out for the American people? Tweet replies. It says, all of these individuals are Zionists. Jared Kushner is literally in bed with Netanyahu. This is an Israeli infiltration agenda. It's not anti-Semitic to notice. I'm in dangerous area. I'm in dangerous ground right now. Let's read this one. It says, the Gaza Strip is undoubtedly the land of Israel. We are not in Gaza to defend ourselves, but because it's our land, even in Gaza, did not threaten us at all. We're obliged to invade it. It's a holy commandment to conquer Gaza. Eliezer Castillo, Zionist leader and head of the Upper Yeshiva of Army Veterans of Israel in the Eliezer settlement, says they would invade Gaza anyway, even if no one threatens them, because that is their land.
שחרור התאפיינה במלחמה דו-משמעית. צד אחד היה באלמנט של הגנה. שחרור התאפיין...
It says, the War of Independence, 1948, had two facets. On one hand, there was the element of defense. There were places that were attacked. The Jewish settlement in Zafat was attacked. There were convoys that were attacked. Places were attacked and needed defense. This was one aspect of the 1948 war. But there was another aspect, the War of Independence. There were some very large operations which had nothing to do with defense. The purpose was clearly conquest. Conquest of territories that were not designated to us by the UN. Areas not included in the partition plan. All the Negev was a huge takeover. All the Negev. No one attacked us from the Negev to Eilat. Did anyone shoot at us from Eilat? Were we threatened? There was not one Jewish soul there. Conquest. The Gaza Strip is no doubt Eretz Israel. No question about it. Even by most minimalistic views of the southern border of Eretz Israel. Like Rabbi Saadia Gaon, that the southern border of Eretz Israel, the El Arash River, is many kilometers after the Gaza Strip. And these are the minimalists. Rashi, Hagan, Mavin, Kazura all believe it is still Egypt River, meaning to the delta of the Nile, which is we still have a lot to do. All of the north of Sinai is ours. But even if we go by the minimalist views, such as Rabbi Saadia Gaon, the Gaza Strip, known in the Bible as Land of Philistines, is part of Eretz Israel. In the weekly Torah portion, Toldot, which we read last Sabbath, it was told, live in this land. Live in this land. In what land? Says the Ramban, in the land of Philistines. Or Hakim holds the same interpretation. You must live here. This is Eretz Israel. Buy lands, take hold of lands, and Yashak sold in the land, sold specifically in that land in Gra, where the Philistines are. The land of Philistines is the Gaza Strip. Yeah, I'm gonna stop right there because we get the point. Is this a tweet reply? Totally fabricated history based on the Bible, which is imaginative fiction. There is zero evidence that Zionists are indigenous to the land of ancient Palestine. It says, Nor Mashallah, Palestine, a 4,000-year history. It says, Zionist really is perverted ideology. It lies about everything, including the chosen people bit. As I recently learned, Jews were chosen to observe the Torah or protect the message, not go on a bloody land-grabbing spree at the expense of countless others. What we see in Zionist Israel is simply the grubby Zionist neo-colonialist mindset hiding behind helpless Jews they have knowingly turned into scapegoats. In fact, Zionists are now very likely damned by Yahweh, as well, of course, most the rest of the human race. It says Zionist Israel is doing to the Palestinians what the U.S. Army and Texas Rangers did to the Comanches, horse Indians, in the late 1800s. Kill them to clear the way for expansion of a superior armed colonial-minded entity. Yeah, that just got dark real fast. I think I'll do a little bit more and then we'll move on because we're kind of beating a dead horse at this point.
Is this what Zionism was supposed to be like, or you think the Zionist ideology has evolved over the last few decades?
Zionism from the get-go was all about creating a Jewish state.
But not to the extent of being genocidal or cleansing.
No, the Zionists understood from the very beginning that you had to cleanse. There's no way Jews or Zionists moving out of Europe can come into an area that's filled with Palestinians and create a Jewish state without cleansing the area. They understood that from the beginning. This is very clear from the historical record. The Zionists who came out of Europe and laid the
Right.
foundation for what is Israel today, were very smart people. I mean, they were very smart, very clever. They knew exactly what they were doing. And they understood that they would have to do horrible things to the Palestinians in order to create a Jewish state. It was just inevitable. There's no way you could create a Jewish state otherwise.
Bada bing, bada boom. Forget about it. Forget about it. The thing's the best. Forget about it. It says the Chinese FM, the U.S. now plundering Syria under entirely false pretext, is a manufacturer of humanitarian crisis. Is this translated? If it's not, I'm not going to do it because I freaking can't read right now.
口国，叙利亚曾经是小麦出口国，现在却有大约
It's interesting though. I'm gonna move on. Did I cover all of these? Oh, the Ukraine one. Let's do this.
To understand that is in this long-standing Palmerston-Brzezinski theory. This isn't just haphazard. Oh, why don't we take Georgia? This is a plan. Okay, the Russians understand every single step of this. So another thing goes awry. What goes awry? The Ukrainians don't want NATO enlargement. The Ukrainians don't want it. They're against it. The public opinion said, no, this is very dangerous. Neutrality, it's safer. We're in between East and West. We don't want this. So they elect Viktor Yanukovych, a president that says, we'll just be neutral. And that's absolutely the U.S.'s, oh, what the hell is this? Ukraine? They don't have any choice either. So Yanukovych becomes the enemy of the neocons, obviously. So they start working, of course, the way that the U.S. does. We got to get rid of this guy. Maybe we'll elect his opponent afterwards. Maybe we'll catch him in a crisis and so forth. And indeed, at the end of 2013, the U.S. absolutely stokes a crisis that becomes an insurrection and then becomes a coup. And I know, again, from firsthand experience, the U.S. was profoundly implicated in that. But you can see our senators standing up in the crowd, like if Chinese officials came to January 6th and said, yes, yes, go. You know, how would we like it if Chinese leaders came and said, yeah, we're with you 100%. American senators standing up in Kiev saying to the demonstrators, we're with you 100%. Victoria Nuland famously passing around the cookies, but it was much, much more than the cookies, I can tell you.
Much, much more than the cookies. What was she passing around then? What was in those cookies? It says, Jimmy Dore posted this. It says, attention all the dupes with Ukrainian flags in your profile. You've been had once again by the war machine. After being lied into war twice in Iraq, lied into Libya, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, lied to for 20 years about Afghanistan. You fell for it again with Ukraine. Here's the real reason for the war in Ukraine and what you're not being told by your favorite corporate news outlet. Oof. This has been the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. I'm probably going to get out of here. I'm going to do a couple more. Is this one translated? There's too much music in it. I don't have patience for that stuff nowadays. Really annoying. I'm gonna just do a few more and then I'm gonna get out of here. Question posed: conservative lawsuits are forcing the removal of many DEI programs. Right-leaning public interest groups have filed a barrage of federal lawsuits intended to dismantle long-standing corporate and governmental programs that consider race in awarding jobs and other perks. And their litigation already is eroding the use of affirmative action in an array of American institutions. 1 year after the Supreme Court struck down race-based admissions at Harvard and other schools, court rulings have forced the removal of racial preference from 2 major COVID relief programs, a federal contracting program that doles out $20 billion a year, and even the U.S. Minority Business Development Agency, a 55-year-old agency that was ordered in March to open its doors to all races. Meanwhile, private companies are acting preemptively, seeking to avoid litigation by terminating fellowships and executive bonus programs aimed at employing minorities. The goal is complete race neutrality. This is the end goal of all this litigation, said Daniel Langton, a lawyer for the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. It's a view of radical equality that we think is in line with the Declaration of Independence. Let's read some comments. It says, it's all good. Will force more minorities to strive to build their own and compete for businesses opposed to work for people that obviously don't want you there. Wait, that didn't sound right. Let me read it again. It says, it's all good. Will force more minorities to strive to build their own and compete for the business opposed to work for people that obviously don't want you there. Another comment that says, they don't want problems fixed and they have money en masse to make sure it isn't. Another comment that says, the goal is completely race neutrality, says white man with generational wealth and privilege. Why, when it comes to race, are we amplifying the voices of the very people who believe black men and women were literally less than? We know better, let's do better. Another comment, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. That sums up the GOP. Another comment, in legacy and donation-based admissions too then. Another one, conservatives fetishizing victimhood like they've been doing since Nixon. Another one, Project 2025 at work, we need to stop Trump now. Another one, conservatives, the ultimate snowflake victims. Another comment, it says, sounds about white. Another one, that's in line with the Declaration of Independence. He means the same document that was drafted while black folks were considered property instead of humans and were denied the same inalienable rights as their white counterparts. That document, oh, okay. Another comment, it says, reminder that the veteran preference is a form of affirmative action. Another one, the irony here is that the most successful companies are the most diverse ones. Do corporations sue the conservatives back for interference and loss of revenue? Another one, they can't do what they did back in the day by burning down businesses, starting to strive by blacks by burning the cities down. So now they got to resort to courts. Same fight, different strategies. Couple more. It says conservatives hate inclusion. Another one, aimed at women too. The University of Oklahoma stopped a women's leadership training program after the state banned DEI program. Shaking my head. Yep. DEI is not just about like race. You know, it's also about people who have physical disabilities, women.
Netanyahu, it is not anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas to point out that in a little over 6 months, your extremist government has killed 34,000 Palestinians and wounded more than 78,000, 70% of whom are women and children. It is not anti-Semitic to point out that your bombing has completely destroyed more than 221,000 housing units in Gaza, leaving more than 1 million people homeless, almost half the population. It is not anti-Semitic to note that your government has obliterated Gaza's civilian infrastructure, electricity, water, and sewage. It is not anti-Semitic to realize that your government has annihilated Gaza's healthcare system. Do not use anti-Semitism to deflect attention from the criminal indictment you are facing in the Israeli courts. It is not anti-Semitic to hold you accountable for your actions. No, Mr. Net.
And by the way, Bernie is Jewish. So this one, it says, these headlines are 3 days apart. See, they can name the attacker without casting doubt. So BBC News, it says, 5 killed by Russian strike in central Ukraine is a headline. Another headline is airstrike on Gaza school kills at least 15 people. So they're highlighting the difference between these two headlines, how they mentioned Russia. It said 5 killed by Russian strike in central Ukraine. So clearly Russia struck, Russia did an attack that killed 5 people in Ukraine, clearly. The other headline says airstrike on Gaza school kills at least 15 people. It doesn't say, who did the airstrike. You know what I mean? So that is really, really, really clear. And it's it shows how our journalism is. It shows, it's like the person who wrote this didn't feel comfortable, saying an Israeli airstrike on a Gaza school kills at least 15 people. It was like, maybe the editor was like, can we change that? Can we change that title? Caption, it says, yep, this is why I dedicated an entire reel to media consent. I went through a gang of deplorable headlines and juxtaposed them with headlines from the less complicated war in the Ukraine. The differences are alarming. Sadly, I can't say I'm shocked or surprised. Journalism is dead. People are so scared. They're afraid to do actual journalism. They're going to lose their job. You see what's happening. Everyone that says anything truthfully about this specific topic loses their job. Another comment, it says, this is why young people do not watch mainstream media. It will be dead to future audiences. Another one, it says, not killed, murdered. Another comment, it says, we will never unsee the double standard. Another one, 6 corporations own all the media in the U.S. Draw your conclusions. Another one, while journalists are killed day in and day out, the Western media remains complicit as if that will keep them safe. Another comment, any Western media is a mouthpiece for U.S. empire and will go against any geopolitical enemy. Another one, BBC is bribe broadcaster cult. Another one, biased broadcasting corporation. Another one, because Israel is Washington's BFF and Russia isn't, so of course they're not willing to let Israel look bad. Another one, mainstream media is complicit. Another one, you are reflected in those headlines. There's a very high standard to reach to be respected as a serious press. You're not even at the bottom of the ladder. Another one, come on, BBC, you can do better. Your omission is complicity with genocide. Another comment. BBC, your narrative in your face. BBC, do better. I hate it when it does that.
Yeah.
Oh, music. What is this one? Says authorities in China have confirmed that at least one person has died and 79 injured in a tornado hit the town of Dongmang in Shandong province on Friday. According to the local emergency management bureau, 79 people sustained injuries of varying degrees and were taken to hospitals for treatment. According to some on Chinese social media, 23 people are reportedly in severe condition. In response to the disaster, local authorities have initiated rescue, relief, and cleanup operations to assist those affected and to restore the community. There's also talk that senior Chinese officials, including Chinese Premier Li Qiang, may visit the region in coming days. This comes as China experienced an uptick in extreme weather incidents in the last 6 months, including heavy rainfall, catastrophic flooding, mudslides, tornadoes, and intense heat waves. First comment, it says, didn't know China had tornadoes button. It's crazy right here.
Yeah. 我的天耶！
Man,
末日了，是不是世界末日啊？
if the sky looks like that, you need to be in your bathtub. Yeah, this is climate change right here. It says we got Chinese tornado before GTA 6. I love those comments. Another comment says tornado passes over highly populated area in China. Chinese government, only one person and a chicken died. Rest of the world, did you not see the damage the tornado did? China, one person. Another comment says, almost feels like it's a failed weather experiment by the government. Oh my God, people always saying shit like that. God. Y'all really think the government can make a tornado? Another comment says China experiences fewer tornadoes than the United States, with an average of fewer than 100 per year over the past 50 years. In comparison, the U.S. experiences over 1,000 tornadoes annually. However, China does occasionally experience destructive tornadoes, and activity is most prevalent in the eastern regions. For example, in 2016, an EF4 tornado struck Yinchang City in Jiangsu province, causing 99 casualties and injuring over 800 people. Tornado activity in China has fluctuated over time. The 1960s and 70s saw about twice the average of number of tornadoes, with a peak in the early and mid-1960s. However, activity gradually decreased in the late 1980s and dropped dramatically in 1994. The decrease may be due to the changes in meteorological conditions that are favorable for tornado formation. Getting tired. It says Trump asked judge to delay his classified docs case following Supreme Court immunity ruling. I mentioned this earlier. It says following the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity, former President Trump's lawyers have asked the judge in his classified documents case to delay the proceedings. In a blockbuster decision Monday, the Supreme Court ruled that Trump is entitled to presumptive immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts taken while in office. Yeah. We don't know what official acts are, so that's an issue. I guess official acts or whatever they determine are official acts. This is good right here. It says, this company builds power poles that can withstand severe storms. It's opening a factory in Houston. So it's like, if you know climate change is happening and, you don't have to believe in it or whatever, but building infrastructure that can withstand stronger storms and stuff like that is a thing that just makes sense to do. It says Resilient Structures, a Canada-based company that manufactures power poles able to withstand severe weather rather than traditional wooden poles, has opened a 400,000 square foot distribution and production facility in the Houston area. Also known as RS Technologies, the company makes poles from its proprietary resin formula and glass that have never failed in a weather event, period, full stop, CEO John Higgins said. So yeah, companies like this will probably be, I don't know, I don't want to make no investment advice, but probably be good in the future. Damaged power poles are a common cause of localized power outages, and in extreme circumstances can lead to wildfires, prompting utilities nationwide to seek stronger alternatives to wood as they evaluate their aging infrastructure. We actually built this plant ahead of demand. Now you'd say, well, why would we do that? We're that confident in the adoption of our poles going forward. So Resilient Structures, a Canada-based company that manufactures power poles able to withstand severe weather better than traditional wooden poles, has opened a 400,000 square foot distribution and production facility in the Houston area. Also known as RS Technologies, the company makes poles from its proprietary resin formula and glass that have never failed in a weather event, period, full stop, CEO John Higgins said. Damaged power poles are a common cause of localized power outages. Is it going to say the same stuff? Hundreds of thousands of Resilient Structure poles have been installed across 30 countries since the company deployed its first pole in 2003, Higgins said. Of Resilient Structures, hundreds of utility customers, CenterPoint Energy, the transmission and distribution utility for much of Houston area, is the largest and most important, he said. Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, man. The damn light's going out. Every damn time we get some rain or some wind, it's like, what the hell, bro? Like, they're like, well, you can't control the weather, man. Build some better infrastructure, bro. Stop making excuses. I think I'm gonna get out of here. It says, I love when people suggest that the Electoral College was created to protect rural voters from a tyranny of a majority of urban voters, because it's true. Now let's put our thinking caps on. Who are these rural voters and what might they have been nervous about? I'm gonna get out of here, y'all. Peace and love. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for joining.